And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Arrington versus Boston. Step forward, please. Massage
therapist Kathleen Arrington is suing former client, retired attorney John Boston, for the cost of her services. John is countersuing for the cost of his services, defamation of character, and for an injury to his thumb.
Miss Arrington, you are a massage therapist?
Yes, I am.
And Mr. Boston is an attorney.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you practicing now, sir?
I'm almost retired. I still have a license, but I don't have any clients at this time.
Okay. Ms. Arrington, according to what I've read, you and the defendant entered into a barter arrangement. You would provide him with massage therapy, and he would do some legal work for you, problem that you had with a phone company.
That's correct.
And it is your claim that you performed your part of the service?
Yes.
He did not?
That is correct.
And you are suing him for the value of your services because he didn't perform his part of the barter agreement.
That is correct.
Okay. And Mr. Boston says that you actually owe him money because he did provide services. He worked for many hours on your legal problem, and at so much an hour he discounted it, so you owe him a lot of money. And in addition, he says that you weren't a very good massage therapist because you damaged his thumb, and he's had all kinds of problems, and he's had to go for treatment and therapy. He has his hand in a splint anyway. So this whole barter agreement didn't work out very well. When did you make this agreement, Miss Arrington, with Mr. Boston, and how did you find him?
Mr. Boston came to me for a general massage when he found that I knew how to do neuromuscular massage.
Do you advertise?
Yes, I do.
Do you have an office?
I use my home, a room in my home.
Okay. How did you find her?
Your Honor, I saw an ad in the paper, the Austin Chronicle, which said, "Enjoy a glass of wine with your massage." My regular massage therapist was out of town, so I called her, and on the 28th of December, had a massage which I paid her $130 for.
And when did you make this arrangement with regard to barter?
At the end of the second massage, on January 4th, we had been just exchanging information on both the massages about what we do and what we do in our life. And I had told him twice that I was having trouble with MCI, that I had a defective phone line. They were not giving me the refund I needed. I had lost a lot of time taken off from my jobs to be there the 26 or 27 times it took to get them out to fix the phone, which was still dead at that current time. And he suggested that we barter. He would take on the MCI problem, try and get the money back.
How much money are we talking about?
At the time, I thought about $800. Mr. Boston said that he could probably get that back, plus some money that I probably was entitled to because I had lost so much work on the 26 or 27 or 28 times they had been to my house to fix the line. So it sounded like something that he could handle. He assured me he could handle it. So the barter began, and we did the first massage in the barter arrangement on January 19th.
Okay. And how many did you do on the barter arrangement?
9 massages. 3 of them were for an hour and a half long on the barter system.
Okay. From when to when? From the 19th of January until
From the 19th of January to the last time he came in. He came in 3 times in one day on March 10th. By this time, all I wanted him to do was finish the MCI thing. He was vague about it, and I never heard from him again until he called me around March 20th. No, he sent me a letter on March 23rd saying that he liked me. I'm smart, I'm talented, I'm attractive. Then he said he didn't have time to work on my case because he says if I'm hired by cash clients, taking care of their needs comes ahead of other considerations.
Let me see the letter.
In the same thing, he also suggests an hour-for-hour swap. Can
I see?
I've highlighted most of them.
So, at some point, Mr. Boston, I assume that you became interested in a more than professional relationship with the plaintiff. Would that be a fair statement?
Yes, Your Honor, it is. I was divorced 2.5 years before. I was not dating anybody at the time, and I was looking for a relationship, not necessarily romantic, but just a friend. And we did a lot of things together during that time that were social and not professional on the swap.
I assume so. I assume that that's true. I mean, I've read the letter. The letter is clear that there were some discussions prior to this letter being drafted. Is that right?
I tried to keep it as professional as possible. When he refers to, he took me to dinner, he took me to a cafeteria.
Was your case settled with MCI?
No, he walked out. He never even called
Was
me.
your case ultimately settled?
Yes,
with
they
MCI?
gave me credit for $200 and they disconnected my phone because they were waiting to hear from him.
Well, I don't know that. You have a letter to say that says that?
No,
Okay.
I called him.
Can I see the work that you say that you did? I want to see the work, sir.
Right.
Mr. Boston, listen to me, sir. That is your entire file on the case?
No, ma'am. There's quite a bit of all the correspondence,
assume-
but that's the work product file.
No, I'm talking about the file on the case, sir.
Those are the letters exchanged between the agencies that I corresponded with, that I talked to on the phone, the Public Utility Commission of Texas, the Better Business Bureau of Texas at the state and national level, the Attorney General's Office of the Attorney General of Texas Consumer Protection Division, and then I got the top letter that you have there from their office of MCI.
Just a second. Just 1 second. What do you get for a massage?
I get $85 an hour. It depends on the type of massage I was doing on him. It's $85 an hour.
Lawyers get more. But that wasn't your arrangement.
No, it was hour for hour.
Well, your arrangement was you would do massages and you would take care of a legal problem.
Right, I did.
Did you?
Yes.
Okay, well, at least you tried. I mean, there's no guarantee if somebody takes on your legal problem.
May I address the court now?
I'm speaking. There's no guarantee, Ms. Arrington, if somebody takes on your legal problem, whether you pay them in barter or whether you pay them in cash, that they're going to get the result that you want. That's different from a massage. Hopefully, if you give a massage to somebody, they feel better. He says he didn't feel better. You want to get the second part of your complaint? You say that you were injured by the plaintiff.
Your Honor, it's a violation of the health and safety code, of the health code of Texas, to overtreat a massage client. Between the fourth day of February and the 12th, she did massages on my thumb. It was hurting me, and I told her. She said, "I'm breaking up calcium. It's going to help." Well, it's become chronic. I've seen 4 doctors. The first one was back when I just got back from a trip to see my daughter in Seattle. That would have been early May or late April. And he said, "Tape it." Then I went to my general practice physician. He said, "Put a cast on it whenever you're not doing something that has to take the cast off, use the cast." And then I went to my orthopedic surgeon, and he examined me, and he wrote up a report of that I can submit to the court.
I'd like to see it. Mr. Boston, you don't expect me to accept this as proof that the plaintiff injured you. You have arthritis in your thumb. That's what people get, arthritis. We all have arthritis. You don't know what time he spent on the telephone finding out who to write to, speaking to someone at the Better Business Bureau, speaking to someone at the Regulatory Commission. You have no idea what that is, and there's no way for me to quantify that. Listen to me very carefully. There's no way to do that, madam. That's what happens when you have a barter arrangement. You were giving him massages, and according to you, you gave him 9 massages, and if you felt as if he wasn't doing work for you during that time, I assumed you would have stopped.
He started asking me for sex, and I didn't know how to get out of it.
You get out of it by saying, "Give me my file back." If that's true, you get out of it by saying, "Give me my file back. I want nothing more to do with you." That's what you do.
Then what do I do about the money he owes me for the massage?
You strike it and say, "I made a mistake."
I brought a copy of what I did on him. I also have...
Listen to me, madam. I am not going to say what you did for him is worth more than the work he put in on your file. He did, in fact, in his capacity as an attorney, perform a service for you. The fact that you weren't totally satisfied with his service doesn't mean that you get the money back for the massages. Just like the fact that he wasn't totally satisfied with the massages that you gave him means that he gets any money back from you. Do I make myself clear? Both of you. You made a mistake. Next time, get paid for your service. Next time, get paid for your service so that you leave us out of it. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
In the matter of Gorbach versus Dagrapont. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Mr. Gorbach, you were hired by the defendant, according to your complaint, to be Santa during Christmas season at his store or mall. Is that right, sir?
Mall.
Is this your mall? Do you own the mall?
No, I don't,
No.
Your Honor.
Well, what do you do with the mall?
I operate a photo promotions company that specializes doing Christmas and Easter promotions in shopping centers.
And how long was the Christmas season?
6 weeks.
Okay. And you claim, Mr. Gorbach, that you quit.
Yes, ma'am.
And when you received your final paycheck, you were shorted in pay. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
The defense says he gave you absolutely no notice, and that caused you some damage to your business.
Correct.
When did you start working for him, sir?
I started work on November 13th.
Did you answer an ad in the paper? Is that how you got the job?
No, I had visited the mall a number of times, and one of the photographers had called me over and told me to call Mr. Daguerre if I was interested in being a Santa Claus.
And you did?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And were your duties explained to you?
Well, the only thing we discussed was pay. I was over the phone, and he had quoted me $12 an hour pay plus overtime and a bonus at the end of the shooting in insurance.
What kind of bonus?
Well, it was dependent on the amount of money they made.
Okay. Never accept a bonus based upon what somebody else tells you they're going to make.
Yeah.
That's not smart business. Okay. So you worked for a while, and what happened?
Well, when I first started working there, I kept time. In fact, I kept time the whole time I was working, the amount of hours I worked and the days that I worked. And when I got my first paycheck, I noticed that the pay was not $12 an hour, I was told. No overtime was included. It was only $8 an hour. So when I talked to Mr. Daguerre about this, he told me that I had misunderstood and that he had told me $8 an hour, but there'd be $1 an hour raise every year, and at the end of 4 years, I'd get $12 an hour.
At the end of 4 years?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Well, this was, an oral agreement, and I figured, well, I didn't have anything to back up on, and I was having a ball. I enjoyed being Santa Claus at the mall.
Were you working at another job as well?
I had a couple of daycare centers that I did Santa Claus for, and I enjoyed doing that. I've been doing that for years.
Okay, but other than that, you had no regular job?
No, ma'am, I'm retired.
You're retired. Okay.
So I decided, well, like I said, it's an oral agreement. I can't back him up on it.
So you decided to work
So
for
I decided to go for the $8 an hour.
Okay.
So about 2 or 3 days later, Mr. Daguerre came up there and told me, Santa Claus is smiling too much. Quit smiling. I said, well, everything I've read about Santa Claus, he's a jolly old elf. And I enjoyed having fun with the kids and all. And being as I was having fun, I would continue doing it. But when the job quit being fun, I was going to quit. So that ended that discussion. And then I think it was the following Thursday, when I was getting ready to leave the mall, 2 of the people in the mall came to me and told me I was going to hear some very bad news the next day, that they had overheard Mr. Daguerre talking to one of the little girl photographers.
All right, well, don't tell me what anybody else told you. What happened the next day?
Well, that Friday, Mr. Daguerre was in, and nothing. He worked there about 4 or 5 hours and left, and I didn't hear anything. But when we were closing down that night, one of the little girls called me over, the photographer called me over and said, Mr. Daguerre says he wants you to stay on the seat, the Santa Claus sled, the whole time you're here. Don't get up and go visit the children. Don't go visit the adults. That'd be taken away from time. But when we're not taking pictures, that was fun. In fact, I encouraged quite a few people to come get pictures by just going out there and visit them.
So you went out in the crowd?
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Well, I stayed within the confines. We had a little fence, and I stayed within that.
But you didn't just sit in the sled?
I didn't sit in the sled the whole time.
Okay. And this was one of his employees that told you?
Yes, ma'am.
That you were to stay in the sled and not
she said
mingle.
She was informed by Mr. Daguerre to tell me that this was the new regulations.
Okay. And you did, in fact, tell somebody that he was to stay in the sled?
As required by a contract with the shopping center.
Whatever. You did, in fact, make that statement. I just want to make sure. So it was after that, sir, that you quit?
Yes, ma'am. I called him that night and asked him what was the reason behind this, he told me the same thing. This is a requirement of the mall. And I said, well, I told you before, when the job quit being fun, I quit. So we had a lengthy discussion, and I told him, you know, tonight's Friday, have somebody else out here Saturday.
Okay.
And I quit.
Now, when you quit, sir, on that Friday, how much were you owed?
I had 46 hours I had worked at that time, according to my schedule.
Okay, so 46 hours, and it was $8 an hour that you agreed to work for.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's $368, right?
Every day.
Okay. All right, Mr. Dagapont, let's hear you.
Your Honor, Mr. Gorbash is a wonderful Santa Claus, and we really enjoyed having him work for us. But he has a little problem with math. I've brought the official records that are kept by the managers in the booth, as well as a copy of how he added the hours up, and I think if you look at it, you'll see that the math is incorrect.
How many hours do you say you owed him, sir?
The last paycheck, we owed him 37.5 hours.
Okay. Did you pay him?
Yes, we did.
You did pay him.
We issued him a check, yes, ma'am.
Did you ever get a check from them for 38 hours?
37 and a half hours.
You did?
Yes, ma'am.
So what did you do with that check?
I contacted Mr. Dagapont, and I asked him why I was not getting paid, first of all, for the $8 an hour that I was supposed to be getting paid, and that I was shorted hours.
Just a second, you mean he paid you less than $8 an hour?
Yes, ma'am. He cut my pay to $5.15 an hour.
Did you do that?
Yes, we did.
Why did you do that, sir? That's going to cost you money.
The fact that the contract, that oral contract that we had with Mr. Gorbash, was one that he had agreed to work till December 24th. But he not only didn't work to December 24th, he quit 20 days early, failed to give us any reasonable time to find a replacement, even though we begged him to. And I just felt that
unilaterally cut his pay.
I felt that he breached the contract, and I was no longer required to pay the agreed amount.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Come on, listen. I wasn't born yesterday. Being a Santa Claus at this man's age is not something that you sign on for with an annuity. You don't say, well, if you're a good Santa Claus, in 4 years, we're going to give you more money.
And later today,
You left the defendant with your father's phone card.
Right.
Your father got a whopping bill.
She made $849 worth of phone calls plus taxes and fees, which came out to $1,015.
Big talker.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Father phone card. Sit.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Department store Santa Melvin Gorbash says promoter Don Dagapont owes him for work. Don says Melvin breached the contract when he didn't show up for work.
All right, I'm going to ask you this question, Mr. Dagapont. Mr. Gorbash, I believe, based upon what little I've seen of him, wasn't doing this job for money, necessarily, because if he was doing the job just for money, he certainly wouldn't have quit. Right?
Right.
He had a good time doing it.
I agree.
He's retired. You get a pension, sir? Or,
Yes, ma'am. I'm on medical retirement.
So he's doesn't need these extra couple of bucks. Tell me about the $12 an hour that you discussed with him when you spoke on the phone. Did you ever say to him, Mr. Dagapont, salary is between $8 and $12 an hour?
I told him the salary was $8 an hour, yes.
You mean he's just making up the fact that $12 an hour was mentioned someplace in your conversation?
Well, I may have said that we pay Santa Clauses between $8 and $12, but starting Santa Claus is
That's
making
what I
$8.
just said, Mr. Dagapont.
Well, you asked me
that you pay him between $8 and $12 an hour. So he didn't get the $12 an hour out of nowhere.
Right.
Now, you did, in fact, have a conversation with him after he got his first week's pay, and he called you and said, what happened to the $12
No, he
an hour?
didn't say that.
He never called you after he got his...
He met with me personally and said...
Met with you personally. So he
where
met
are
with you...
the $10? He never mentioned 12, he mentioned 10. But he has a little problem with math, so I'm not surprised that he didn't know 10 and 12 are different numbers.
Mr. Dagapont, he had a conversation with you, and he said, what happened to the original, let's say, $10 an hour?
That's what he said, Your Honor.
And then you said, well, I told you that we paid between 8 and 12, and we're paying you 8?
No, I told him that the starting salary was at 8, but that I would throw in a $1 bonus if he stayed to the end as he agreed. Your Honor, I would have paid him whatever he asked if he would have stayed. In fact, this was a wonderful Santa Claus, and we did not want to lose him, and I didn't care what we had to pay him. He will hopefully remember me saying, Mr. Garbage, I was going to pay you the $10 an hour. Can't you please come to work like you agreed?
Why didn't you pay him the $10 an hour initially that you had initially discussed with him?
Because this is what we start all our Santa Clauses off.
Come on, listen, I wasn't born yesterday. Being a Santa Claus during Christmas season at this man's age, right, is not something that you sign on for with an annuity. So when you sign on for it to work for 6 weeks, you sign on for it with a certain salary. You don't say, well, if you're a good Santa Claus in 4 years, we're going to give you more money.
I never said
he may
that.
be delivering in the North Pole in 4 years. Mr. Dagrapon,
that was never said by me, Your Honor.
I want to tell you something, Mr. Dagrapon. I find your testimony a little bit slippery, to say the least.
Well, I'm sorry
I find
to
it
hear
a little bit slippery, and I tell you that for, among other things, that you had absolutely no right, because if I believed what you said, you had absolutely no right to cut his pay unilaterally from the $8 that you said you were going to pay him to $5. You didn't have a written employment agreement with him. If you had, he would have known exactly what he was going to make, not between 8 and 12 or 8 and 10. So you decided that he had to be punished for leaving you? What'd you do with the check that they sent you, sir?
Well, I cashed it because I needed the money.
Let me see the check, exactly what it was, because you certainly are entitled to the difference.
Your Honor, if I may.
Last check.
Just a second. The last check you sent him was for $178.36.
Right.
That was net. The gross
Right.
was $193.13.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I don't like to deal with change. You don't mind if I don't deal with change, Mr. Gorback?
No, it's okay. He cut dollars. If you want to cut a couple of pennies, it's okay.
Okay. Mr. Gorback,
Yes.
today's Christmas for you.
Thank you.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $175, which is the difference in what I consider, sir, the amount that you owe this gentleman. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Thank you. Oh, down in Louisiana, we don't go ho, ho, ho. You go ha, ha, ha.
He's a wonderful Santa Claus, and I'm hoping that he'll work for us in the future.
I love being Santa Claus.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Brandlin versus Evans. Step forward, please.
19-year-old makeup artist Sarah Brandlin is suing her ex-best friend, 19-year-old Angela Evans, for the return of her makeup case.
All right, this major case is all about a cosmetics case. A whole bunch of makeup. You say that you loaned a cosmetics case to the defendant. It was yours. She won't return it. She says it's her case. And Bird really cares about this. Where's the case?
The case is with me.
I'd like to see it.
Me too.
Oh. Here's the pictures. The pictures are here.
That's all you got? I'll take a look at pictures.
And it's just the one that the arrow's pointing to.
Okay. I assume that this is your business. You either sell or promote or do something with these, because these look like makeup testers. Is that right?
Correct.
Freebies given away by somebody. Tell me how it's yours. Tell me how she got possession of it.
Me and Angie both worked at Macy's, and for a selling drive, sometimes we would be able to get other things in return for selling an amount of products. Angie worked for Lancome. I worked for Shiseido. Scott, the cosmetic manager at Macy's, did give us Lancome cases because we achieved a high amount of
When you said
sales.
us, what do you mean us? The two of you?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So to be able to actually be able to take out something out of the department, we get an exit pass at Macy's. It's right here. It's the receipt showing that the foundation case and an eyeshadow case was given to me. Here's a picture of an eyeshadow case, and it describes below all the items in the foundation case, which I do still have items of that I didn't actually let her borrow because they were my...
You have to have something that shows that you're not stealing
Exactly,
anything.
yes.
Okay. And this is showing me that you didn't steal what you walked out with.
Yes.
When was this? August of '02. Is that right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And according to this picture, there are some foundations missing, and according to you lent her the foundation kit absent the stuff that you use because you use it, so you didn't want to have that out of your possession. You use it for your own personal use.
Exactly.
Okay, when did you lend it to her?
And around May of 2003. It was for a wedding that she was about to do.
Well, tell me about it.
Me and her were really good friends, and we worked together on different makeup events. And so we always tried to help each other out. And so I let her borrow the foundation case because she didn't actually have a foundation case. She has a blush, lipstick, and other etc.
When did you ask for it back?
It was actually after the argument that we had. We had a very, very bad argument. It was just kind of like girl stupid stuff, I guess. And we were at her house when we had the argument. I drove off very mad. And then when I realized that when I drove off that she still had my foundation case, and so I let my boyfriend call her and tell her that I would like that back, and we can also exchange clothes, that me and her sometimes borrowed clothes from each other.
This is the boyfriend?
Yes.
Step up. Tell me your name.
Hans Swanberg.
When did you call Miss Evans?
On the night that they got in a fight.
Do you know what day that was?
Yes, I do. It was May 14th.
And what did you say to Miss Evans when you called her?
Well, I tried to be smooth at first because my goal was to get the makeup case back.
I asked you what you said to her.
I said that I understand that you got in a fight, and I'm sure you guys will get over it because they've had fights in the past and they always get over it. And I said, I understand that you have some items of Sarah's, and I said specifically the makeup case, and she said, yes, I do have that. And then I also said that Sarah has some of your items too, like clothes, and I asked if she wanted to meet to exchange those items because Sarah did not want to go meet her because they had gotten in a fight and she did not want to see her.
And what did Miss Evans say?
She agreed to meet the following day, and I was to call her sometime when I was at work and discuss when we were going to meet that night.
And did you?
I did.
And what happened when you called?
Her friend answered the phone, and she said Angie wasn't available, at which point I heard laughter in the background, a female voice and a male voice, and then they just hung up.
Okay. Is there any other evidence that you want to present
No.
to me? Good. Perfect. Sit down. Now I'll hear you.
Okay. As she said, I worked for Lancome. She worked for Shiseido. We were getting new tester units in, so my manager, whom I have here today, Connie Noel, divided the tester units between myself and another coworker of Lancome. Not Shiseido, because they usually don't cross-sign out products to different people. And so I took them home, and I use them for different events, such as weddings, and I've done like a photo shoot and stuff with them. And basically,
Why looking at me?
I let her borrow the foundation unit.
Tell me how that happened.
Well, she said that she wanted to borrow the unit, and I said, yeah, you can have it for a period of time. I gave the unit to her.
When was this?
That was about a month after I took the units home, around September.
And when did she return the unit to you?
I got it back. She had it for a while.
Yeah.
I got it back the end of April, because I did the wedding in July. It was my cousin's wedding.
You want to say anything to me before I ask her any other questions?
Sure.
Tell me your name.
I'm Connie Noel. As her manager, I professionally dispersed them. She got them put together, and I told her...
What do you mean she got them put together?
Well,
what
we
is
had
that?
them in the back stock area, and I told her to get them together, the ones that she wished to take, and that she should take them up to her car. So she took them out to her car.
Which testers did she take out to her car?
The 5 that are showing on the picture.
And which ones did the plaintiff take?
I didn't give her any.
Why is that?
Well, she doesn't work for Lancome. She worked for Shiseido.
And these are all Lancome products?
Correct.
Interesting. Becomes a little more complicated. Why would they give you Lancome products if you work for Shiseido?
I understand that Scott did give us these units without Connie knowing, actually. I don't think he wanted her to know that Lancome things were going to other people.
Scott worked for you?
He was the general cosmetic manager, so he was my manager also.
He was your manager also?
Yes.
Have a seat.
He didn't work there.
Now it's getting better. So it's like a puzzle. Miss Evans, you got this back in April. Did you continue to be friends and work
yeah.
together?
Yeah.
In April?
We were friends up until. Can I give you a little briefing?
No.
No.
I just want you to answer my question.
Okay.
Were you friends in April?
Yes.
When she gave you back the tester unit?
Correct. Yep.
Miss Evans, let me tell you what I think your problem is, at least your problem with me. It is clear to me from the photograph that you presented to me that a substantial number of products are missing. Makeup is missing. And if I were going to do a wedding, I would want to make sure that I had all my products with me from the tester, just in case I needed them. You got this tester back in April, and you continued to be her friend in April up until May when you had an argument about something else wholly unrelated to the tester.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
It would be common sense for you to say to her in April, I need all the makeup back just for the purposes of doing the wedding, and then I'll give it back to you if you want it. But there was no discussion about that, Miss Evans.
Well, actually what I did is there's a lot of doubles, duplicates of the, like, Ivory Zero is a foundation color. There can be 3 of them in there. And what I did is I took the units to the house and did like a test run on the ladies so that if I needed those products, I could ask her for the products back. I did not realize that they were gone. I honestly didn't,
listen, I'm not a cosmetician. I realize they're gone.
When you get testers, they're not necessarily all there because they've been on the counters for about 3 years. I mean, people walk by the counters, they steal different. They're not. It's not fully stocked, is what I'm saying. When I took it out, there wasn't every single color in there.
So what you're telling me is these were incomplete testers that already had been used. Is that right?
Correct. They were on the counter for at least 2 years.
At least 2 years.
Uh-huh.
So then my question to you is, why are you people bothering me?
That's my question too.
Quite frankly, I don't necessarily believe you. Her story sounds far more plausible than yours. And I don't think, with all deference to you, that you know what's his name?
Scott.
Scott did with all the testers. There's certainly some credibility that I hear in his voice when he says, I called her and said, let's make an exchange. She has some of your clothes and you have the tester. So I don't necessarily believe you. Do you understand? But that doesn't mean that you're entitled to $850 because you didn't spend $850. You got the makeup that you use out of the tester, is that right?
Yes.
Are you just here because you're angry with her?
No, because I would have dropped this whole thing a long time ago. It's been a lot of drama for like 2 months.
Listen to me. We're not talking about an item that you spent any money for. We're talking about something that's now at least 3 years old, that a whole bunch of people have put all over their skin, right? Because it's been out in a department store that has absolutely no value. So the $850 that you're suing for, forget it. Do you understand? All right?
The items,
so tell me what the drama is.
Half the items have not been used in those cases. So when I do weddings...
Is that the drama that we're talking about? Is that what you want me to become exercised about?
No.
All right. She used to be a friend. She's not your friend anymore. This amounts to nothing. You have to grow up. How old are you?
19.
You still working at Macy's?
No.
Where are you working?
I'm a freelance artist right now.
Doing what?
Just doing makeup events for special events and stuff like
that. Okay. And I assume that you have your own kit.
Since this, I do have to buy new foundations because half of them have been used, have been lost.
Well, if I were you and if I were doing makeup for a lot of different people, I would like nice new makeup anyway, not makeup that's 3 years old, right?
Yes.
Goodbye.
Hardy's start room, please. Hello. Okay. Your Honor, this is case number 188 on the calendar in the matter of Norrie versus Hathaway. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
All right, Miss Norrie, you owned a car.
Yes, I did.
Do you still own it?
No, I don't.
You allowed your boyfriend to drive the car.
Yes, I did.
Your boyfriend's name is Shane.
Yes.
According to what I've read here. And this would be Shane.
Yes, Your Honor.
Shane and the defendant went for a ride. The defendant somehow, after Shane went to sleep or whatever, went to a party and he wasn't in the shape to go home, the defendant decided to take the car, according to you, without Shane's permission and drive home.
Yes, Your Honor.
He wrecked the car.
Yes, he did.
And you want him to pay for the car.
Yes, I do.
Mr. Hathaway says, it's not my fault.
Correct, Your Honor.
All right. Now, Mr. Hathaway is going to explain, not only to me, but he is going to explain to Officer Petrie Hawkinsbird how someone who was the sole driver of a car, who wrecked it, can establish to our satisfaction that it was somebody else's fault.
Okay.
Okay? Is that fair?
That's fair, Your Honor.
Very good. Step up here, Shane. Now, you borrowed the plaintiff's car when?
January 16th.
And what did you borrow the car for?
To go to Bridgewater State College. We went up there to visit a friend.
Did you have a driver's license?
Yes, I do.
Did you?
Oh, did I?
On January 16th, 2003, have a driver's license?
No, I didn't.
How did you expect to drive her car without a driver's license, Shane?
Ben was driving the car there to the college.
And then
When you borrowed the car from your girlfriend, did you tell her that Mr. Hathaway was going to be driving the car?
No, I did not tell her that.
Were you going to be back that evening?
No, the next morning.
Who did you tell her was going to be driving the car?
Actually, I didn't tell her anything. She just knew Ben was going to be driving the car.
Is that right?
Yes, I knew he didn't have a license.
So you knew that Ben was going to be the driver?
Yes, I did.
All interesting things that they left out of the complaint, by the way. So you gave permission for Ben to drive your car with Shane as the passenger?
Yes, I did.
So what happened, Shane?
Well, we both went to Bridgewater State College that night. We went to a party. We were drinking and stuff like that. And he asked me, he goes, "Can I use your car?" And I said, "No way." And then he took my keys and he took off with my car, and I ran out to get him, but he took off right in front of me in the parking lot. And then I waited in the parking lot thinking he was joking around. But 20 minutes later, he never came back.
Where did he say he wanted to go with the car?
To go pick up my friend Rob.
I mean, you asked that with a question in your voice.
To pick up my friend Rob.
This is not sounding true to me, Shane.
He said he wanted...
Bird, you see Bird is shaking his head?
Yeah.
You see Bird is shaking his head? We together are like a truth machine. Okay. You know what happens when somebody is piddling on my leg? The hairs on the back of my neck start to stand up. So I can always tell when someone is making it up as they're going.
Okay.
Because the hair on the back of my neck goes up, and I'm watching the hair on the back of his neck.
All right.
Do you understand, Shane? So we're going to start again.
Okay.
You're at a party.
Yes.
Doing some drinking.
Yes.
And
we come back to the dorm room where we were going to sleep at.
And you fell asleep.
No, I didn't fall asleep.
Did you get into bed?
No.
Did you fall into bed?
No.
You were standing at the window?
No, we were in the room just talking and stuff like that. Okay? And then he took my keys and he started going down the stairs. He said he was going to leave, and I chased him, and he went inside my car. And then I was like, "Ben, get out of my car. And he took off right in front of me.
So what was going to pick up a friend, Rob?
He promised my friend Rob, who lives in Providence College, I don't know, an hour away or something like that. He promised he was going to go get him that night because he talked to him.
But he didn't say anything to you about going to pick up Rob
Yes,
when he took
did.
the keys?
He said, I want to go pick up Rob, and I said, no.
Let's have it.
All right. Well, Your Honor, I was asked to drive the
Nicholson
car.
did that. Do you remember when Jack Nicholson did that? I loved when he did that.
All right. Eye contact. Well, I was asked to drive the car, so we went up there like was said before. The plan was for us to come home that night. So we went out, we went to a party, and when it was time to go home, that wasn't the case anymore. He didn't want to go home, and I started arguing with him saying, you know, I was the one who drove up here, and right now I'm the one who's driving the car, and you promised me I could go home, therefore
I'm going home.
I want to go home. And when that didn't come to an agreement, I said, you know what, I am going home. And I jumped in the car, and he said, come on, man, I don't want to leave. Let's stay here. It's the better thing to do. It's late. I said, no, I want to go home. And so I jumped in the car.
Had you been drinking, Mr. Hathaway?
I had been drinking earlier that night, and by the time it was time to go, I felt that I was sober enough to drive the car home.
Not sober enough, evidently, Mr. Hathaway. Because what happened on the way home, sir?
Well, that's also because, Your Honor, not only was it late at night, but as you can see, it was in January, and snow was covering on the ground, and therefore I made it slippery while driving. And
whose fault is that? God's fault? The weatherman's fault?
I guess so, Your Honor.
Yes. Why don't you tell me how the accident happened, Mr. Hathaway?
Well, I was driving along,
and I was coming home down Route 1. Sorry, eye contact. All right, I was coming down Route 1, and I was on the side of the road, and I just hit an ice patch, hit, you know, black ice, whatever it may have been, and slid off into the guardrail, and the car crashed. I got it to drive a little bit farther down the road so I could make it to somewhere where I could stop and park, and then I called my mother, and she came and picked me up at the location that I was at.
Maybe that's why he wanted to stay over, because you both had a little something to drink. The weather was bad, it was snowy, it was slippery, it was icy. So that was better judgment, right, Mr. Hathaway?
Well, that was his judgment, but the judgment...
Evidently better judgment because you wrecked the car.
Yeah, but I don't believe that that was the reason for the wrecking
Well,
of the
then
car.
tell me what you think the reason was, sir. You just told me it was January and it was slippery and sliding
Yeah, and
outside.
that's what I'm saying. There was ice on the ground, and that's what caused the crash. It had nothing to do with me being drunk or anything like that.
You love it, huh? What? You love it?
Too much.
Mr. Hathaway, do you know why Officer Petrie Hawkinsbird is laughing? And he usually doesn't do that. He usually doesn't have as good a time as he's having right now. He's laughing because you sound like a fool.
Yeah.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You thought that your judgment was sufficiently intact to make the drive home.
Exactly.
The proof of the pudding, sir, is in the tasting. You totaled her car.
And later today,
I agreed to pay off her car for a Christmas present.
If you went and sold the car afterwards, what kind of Christmas present was that?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Melissa Norrie claims her boyfriend's former friend, Ben Hathaway, stole her car and wrecked it. Ben claims Melissa loaned him the car.
Now, what kind of car was this, Miss Norrie?
It was a Saab, 1992.
And it was totaled?
Yes, it was. I have the papers stating it was totaled, and I have how much it's worth, and I also have the pictures.
Pictures?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, let's see what the Blue Book value of the car is. It's 4-cylinder?
Yes.
4-cylinder is worth $1,750. Your car had 300,000 miles on it.
Yes, or 280 something.
All right. Mr. Hathaway.
Yes, Your Honor.
You exercised poor judgment, sir. You drove the car. You had an accident. You had an accident. You had been drinking. You were told by the person who really had borrowed the car, even though you were driving, that they didn't want you to drive home. So at that point, you shouldn't have driven home. You did drive home. You had an accident. It's your fault. You have to compensate the plaintiff for that. Do you understand?
Somewhat, Your Honor. I just don't get that there was an agreement to drive home, and you're already saying that I was under the influence, and I had said
I didn't say you were under the influence, sir. I said that you had been drinking earlier that evening.
Exactly.
And you said that by the time you were ready to go home, you thought
Correct.
that your judgment was sufficiently intact to make the drive home.
Exactly.
The proof of the pudding, sir, is in the tasting. You totaled her car. Who's responsible? Her?
I guess no. I don't know.
I
Nobody.
guess not. No, not nobody. Not nobody. Somebody is responsible. And since you were the one who was driving, and you were the one who elected to drive in bad weather on an evening when you had been partying, you are responsible. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He apologized a few times, and he said that he was going to go through his insurance company and he was going to pay us right away.
It was tough to do that, and I apologized, and I wanted to take care of it in the best way I could.
It's not something you should do to your friend, really. You know what I mean? I told him not to take it, and he took it.
It was kind of tough, but I mean, it's hard to lose a friend after that long of a time.
I think he got what he deserved.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Hoisington Mayak versus Gelhard. Step forward, please.
Musician Tori Mayak and his fiancée, 22-year-old business student Michelle Hoisington, are suing computer accounts manager William Gelhard for rent, bills, and death threats. William is countersuing for an ulcer caused by their death threats.
Whose last name is Hoisington? You're the girlfriend?
Yes.
And this is your home?
Yes, ma'am.
Yours and or your mother's?
Yes, it's in my mother's name, ma'am.
So it's your mother's home?
Yes.
You live there.
Yes.
The two of you believe that Mr. Gelhar owes you for security deposits, some rent, some utilities, and a whole lot of aggravation that you categorize as mental distress.
Most definitely, Your Honor.
And Mr. Gelhar says he owes you for nothing, but that you aggravated him into an ulcer, and he wants $5,000 for the ulcer. Right?
Correct.
Huh. Everybody's in Never Never Land here. Mr. Gelhar, I'm going to deal with your mental distress first.
Okay.
You moved into their home, and you claimed that because they were such terrible people, they were involved in fighting and drugs and everything else, you developed an ulcer.
Yes, it did.
And that's your counterclaim.
Yes, it is.
Let's take care of it right now.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Forget it. If you don't like where you're living, you move.
Right.
Right? You weren't sentenced there. You weren't under house arrest. Nobody put a chain link fence on your foot and told you you had to stay in the house. They were aggravating you, you leave.
Exactly.
Okay, good. So, counterclaim over. Perfect. Now, next. This house is in your mother's name.
Correct.
Were you renting it from your mother?
I was living there with my mother and my auntie and my sister. They all had to move back to Wisconsin, where I'm originally from, for a family emergency. The landlord agreed to let us take over the lease, so we did at that time.
So this is a leased house?
Yes, correct.
And originally the lease was in your mother's name?
This is correct, yes.
Is it still in your mother's name?
Yes, this is correct.
So it's your mother's security deposit?
This is correct.
Now, who was he a friend of?
Your Honor, this man was a lifelong friend of mine. I've known him since, okay.
Good. He's a friend of yours?
Right.
Now, as far as I can gather here, he needed a place to stay because he was coming out of drug rehab.
He was homeless. He showed up at my doorstep with basically two glad bags full of his possessions.
Programs?
Was never in any rehab. His girlfriend had kicked him out of his house, Your Honor. He showed up at my doorstep.
So he was homeless?
Yes, I was doing a good Samaritan deed, letting him live at my
house. Everybody wants to talk. When you say you took him in, what arrangement did you make with him as far as rent? Did you make any, or did your mother make it?
While he was living there with my mother, he was to pay $500 a month, which included phone, food, all utilities, and rent.
You were paying his mother $500 a month?
Yep.
Starting when?
Starting the day I moved in.
Which was when,
Which was about 8-9 months ago. I don't know. I can't remember.
What day?
February 2nd, Your Honor. He showed up at my door with two glad bags.
02/03, he's paying $500. And how many months did you pay the $500?
Up until June, August. Your Honor, when my mother moved back to Wisconsin due to a family illness.
Okay. When did she move back?
She moved on June 1st, Your Honor. She was gone.
Now, on June 1st, did you negotiate different terms with him?
Yes, Your Honor.
Why?
Because my mom wanted us to reimburse her for the security deposit, over $3,500 down. And we all agreed to it. We all agreed to that, Your Honor.
They discussed it with me.
And he agreed to it.
But the fact was, she was like, it's just like putting money in a bank and you'll get it when the lease is up, word for word.
And
I said, you know, I personally would not mind paying whatever I have to pay, but once things started breaking in the house and what have you, and my clothes got sold because I wasn't there, that to me ended any kind of verbal agreement we had.
So what rent does he owe you, sir?
Right now he owes me for the month of October, plus he didn't pay it to me, so there's an $83.10 late fee.
Just a minute. You left me in June. Did he pay rent in July?
Oh yeah, he paid rent for June, July, August, September.
And how much did he pay?
After my mom left, he paid $350 a month.
Okay. October, were you living there, sir?
No, I was out by September.
Was he there in October?
No.
Then he doesn't have to pay rent. So it's just October rent?
October rent plus the late fee plus all the money for a security deposit.
He doesn't owe you any money for security deposit, sir. You think he's going to come after you when you're finished living in that house a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, and say, can I have my $1,200 back? And you're going to give him his $1,200 back?
Yes, I would have.
It's not going to happen.
Well, not now. He hasn't given me any money.
Absolutely right. When you have property, in order to have a valid contract, it has to be in writing.
I've known this man for 20 years since I was in the 9th grade.
So what are you doing here, Mr. Mayak? I don't understand what you're doing here.
Well, I have a close to $2,700 claim against this guy.
You don't have a $2,700 claim, sir. He doesn't have to pay you security deposit. He's not there. You don't even claim in your paperwork that he caused any damage to the property from the time he was living there until the day he moved out, which would suggest that he would be liable for any damage. However, after he moved out, it's possible that you were going to cause a great deal of damage, which means he'd be out of his security deposit 3 years from now. Why should he do that? That's stupid.
Your Honor, he also owes me...
you would agree that that would be stupid.
I'll agree with that.
Good. You would also agree, sir, that since you didn't have a lease, he is nowhere obligated to give you 30 days notice if he's going to move out. So he left before October 1st, so he doesn't owe you for October's rent. And he was paid through September.
Your Honor, this man is a pathological liar.
You just told me that!
When his lips are moving, I know he's lying.
Mr. Mayak, I am not a pathological liar, sir.
I'm not saying you are, Your Honor.
You just told me he paid you rent through September, and what he didn't pay was October, and he didn't give you a 30-day notice. And I just told you he wasn't living there in October. He doesn't have to pay rent. You say he's a pathological liar.
Your Honor, he gave me a verbal agreement and a contract saying that he would give me a 1-month notice.
You can't
he would be out on November 1st.
a contract for real estate unless it's in writing. I don't know what you think, Mr. Mayak. I mean, he's just as far out as you are. He wants $5,000 because he said you aggravated him when he was there. As ludicrous as your lawsuit. Listen to me. What utilities does he owe you for?
He owes me for $172.69 for the month of July, August, and September. I have the utility bills here with me.
Okay, that's what they say. Did you pay utilities during those months?
I paid my utilities, but as I went to Phoenix the first time and came back, Tori goes, look, I needed money, so I pawned some of your clothes and I pawned some stuff.
What did he pawn?
He pawned an $80 jacket and like 3 other dress shirts that I have.
No.
Just a minute. Did you tell him that you sold any of his property?
Your Honor, he had promised me on a payday that he was going to give me $50.
Towards utilities?
Yes, and he did not come through for that.
So what did you do?
At that time, I went into his room searching for anything that I could use to pay that bill, or else my utilities were going to be turned off.
And so what did you find, sir?
I found a jacket, and I got $10 for it.
Well, then consider that your utilities. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. Step out. Yeah, this is case number 148 on the calendar in the matter of Walker versus Cowley. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Mr. Walker, you and the defendant had a relationship of sorts. You have a child together, and according to you, she filed an application for an order of protection against you in which she made some false allegations. You want to be compensated for the false allegations, time away from work, your humiliation, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
The defendant says that what she says was true, that she was not granted ultimately an order of protection after a trial because there wasn't enough evidence, and that she is counterclaiming because she says that you have filed numerous reports about her with Child Protective Services and the police, and they were all lies. So she's counterclaiming. Okay. How old is your child?
She's 8 years old.
Did the two of you ever live together?
No.
Do you have visitation regularly with your daughter?
Yes.
So when was the last time you saw your daughter?
I saw her the Saturday before Father's Day, the last time I saw her.
Why is that?
I live 2.5 hours away, and I drive up there to see my daughter. And until that, I won the case on April 24th because she had filed an order of protection through her allegations of me harassing her. She would not let me see my daughter, and they gave her an order of protection.
Ms. Cowley, I want you to tell me why you filed an application for an order of protection.
Because he harassed me on the phone.
Well, tell me what he did.
He called me on my phone at one time. He told me, "You owe me." That was in November of 2001.
When did you file an application for an order of protection?
After the second harassment on the phone, which was in September 18th of 2002.
So a year later, he did something else to you. And what did he do a year later?
He called me on the phone and told me that he called the police and they were coming to get me and he was coming to take my daughter. So I got tired of that and
Just a second.
Okay.
Did he tell you why?
Yes, he told me I was a drug dealer.
That was on September 18th?
Well, September 16th, and I filed the papers on September 18th.
I'd like to see the papers that you filed.
Yes.
And that's what he said to you, Ms. Cowley.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
That he's tired of dealing with you, that you were a drug dealer, he called the police, and he's going to come and take your daughter from you.
Exactly.
Okay, so now let me see the application that you filed. Let me see it, please. It doesn't say anything about that in your application for an order of protection, Ms. Cowley. It says that on or about September 17th, this is what you say in your petition. You say that he arrived at your home at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. He wanted to see his daughter, and he made belittling remarks about you in front of your daughter. He called you a stupid You didn't say that just now. You told me a different story. You told me he called you on the phone.
He did.
Well, that doesn't say that here.
Yeah.
What do you mean, yeah?
That's when I went down to car and we had to go back to court.
Are you not following what I'm saying to you? I asked you, why did you feel as if you were in fear of the petitioner so that you should file a petition for an order of protection? You told me about 2 dates. You told me about November of 2001 and September 16th, 2002, both of which were telephone calls. That's what you told me.
Well, I had been upset because he called me quite a few times, and when he came to visit my daughter, he had sent the police to my house. And what made me fear him is because he told me he had a gun in his car under his front seat. He told me about how he was going to hurt his first children's mother, and that's what made me feel as though I had to file an order of protection against him.
And the judge threw out the case?
Yes.
Rightly so. You're giving me a lot of who shot John. You abused the system. You were getting even with him for something. Is there a case involving custody and visitation in 2002?
Yes.
May I speak?
Yes.
In the 2002 custody case, I went for custody of my daughter. She has a 26-year-old son there who sells drugs. I tried to get custody of my daughter due to that issue right there. He's been in boot camp, and he's also been in jail for selling drugs. When he was 16, I asked her to let me put her son in the Job Corps. She says no. I said, you'd rather have your son selling drugs than be in a Job Corps? And she actually said, I'd rather have him here. I said, but he's selling drugs. 2 weeks later, he got busted because it was a shootout.
Mr. Walker,
and what happened
to the custody case?
She never even showed up to court. Here's the paper right here. I highlighted it for you. She never even showed up to court. It's right there. And the order, it's right in the order. And
just a minute. I assume that the law guardian advised the judge that the child should remain with her mother. Is that right?
Yes, but there's some extreme circumstances that I need to clear up. I was a paralegal for this responsible fatherhood program. I caught a judge in Rochester lying on me, and a deputy chief clerk, and also a cop lying on me. So I filed with the FBI, the Inspector General's office, and 3 other federal agencies. And it's like a blacklist on me. That's why I moved away from Rochester to Elmira, because they put like a blacklist on me in regards to employment in Rochester due to me catching this judge lying on me. They used her as a tool to get after me. I've never threatened her. She knows I never did anything to her.
For the first 6 years of your daughter's life, did you have regular visitation?
Yes, I did. And her son was in jail. When he got back out of jail, I drove up to her house, and she lives in an area where they sell drugs right at the street corner. I'm looking at him coming up the street corner selling drugs. I tried to get my daughter out of it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I believe that your son has been in serious difficulty involving drugs.
He wasn't, though, Judge Judy.
I don't believe you, madam.
Does he have police records?
I don't believe you.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Donnell Walker says the mother of his child, Sharon Cowley, filed false charges with the police. Sharon says he threatened to use a gun.
All right. I think that she lied in order to get an order of protection, sir. I do.
Judge Judy, may I speak, please?
Sure.
Now, he knows that I'm not lying. What made me fear him the most, he hit a policeman's son in the face with a basketball.
What does that have to do with you?
It made me nervous because he kept coming to my house threatening me.
Listen to me. Miss Cowley, I was very, very clear, madam. I said to you, when you filed your application for an order of protection, you filed it for reasons. I want you to tell me the reasons that you filed a petition for an order of protection. And you said 2 things. One happened in November of 2001, and that was a phone call. And the next thing that happened was another phone call where he said to you, I'm going to call the police and I'm going to come and get my daughter. That you considered a threat. And then you add this stuff about guns. Now, to me, if I asked a person why they felt threatened, they would have said to me right away, he threatened me with a gun. That might have caught my attention, but that's not what you said.
Right.
So I believe that you were using the court system, which fortunately did not grant you an order of protection, because I think if you had an order of protection against him, you would have abused it. And I'm awarding him $1,000 on his application. Now I'm going to hear your cross-complaint.
Okay.
You say he's called the police on you and your family on numerous occasions.
Yes.
Okay? Tell me about that, Miss Cowley.
Okay, Judge Judy, now, the 3 times that he's come to see my daughter, he's called the police on me.
What do you mean he's called the police
He's just called the police on me for nothing.
What does that mean? You mean they've come with him?
He's called them before he's come to my house.
And done what?
Tell them that I'm a drug dealer and he has to get my daughter out of the house. And he would have a problem getting her out of the house for visitation.
Are you telling me that he comes to the house with a police officer in order to pick up his daughter?
Yes.
He's allowed to do that.
Why? But
he's allowed to do that because what he says is, I'm not going there without a police escort because I don't trust her.
Yes.
I don't trust her, A, not to create trouble, to say I bothered her or harassed her, and B, I don't trust her not to give me my daughter for visitation. So I'm going to ask the police to come with me. He has an absolute right to do that.
Yeah, but he doesn't have the right to harass me.
How is he harassing you? You haven't told me how he's
sitting the police there all the time for nothing when he's come before and pick her up with no problem until he had to go to court.
Give me a time when he called police when he did not come himself.
Oh, I have it marked on the calendar. He called them 3 times on me. All of these are no-shows where he did not come for his visit, starting from the beginning when we went to court.
Well, tell me what the police said when they came to your house.
When they came to the house, they came in and said that he called the police because he said gushes of marijuana smoke was coming out the door. We don't smoke in my house because my daughter has chronic asthma.
Where was your son?
He doesn't live with me.
Where was your son?
He wasn't there.
Has your son ever been incarcerated for drugs?
No, he hasn't, Judge Judy.
I don't believe that.
What?
I don't believe that. I don't believe that.
He hasn't been locked up for drugs or anything.
Really?
Really.
Never been involved with drugs?
He wasn't in drug. He was sent to Willard for smoking drugs. That's what he wasn't. He says that he was selling drugs.
Cowley, you have no case. He's entitled to say this child was not living under good circumstance.
Well,
he has an absolute right to do that. And I'm going to tell you something else. I don't know why you've waited so long, sir. I don't know what kind of investigation they did with regard to the home situation. I assume that in Monroe County, they send out an investigator to do an investigation of both homes. I can only hope it happens. But I will tell you now, this case was not heard before a family court judge. It was heard before a referee because it was a default. It was her default because she didn't show up.
Right.
Now, you have the ability to file objections to this hearing officer's report.
I will be filing it when I get back to Rochester.
Well, I suppose that's a good idea. In any event, your counterclaim is dismissed, Ms. Cowley.
Judge Judy, may I speak? This was from a judge. This is where they gave me custody of my daughter after Child Protective came out.
I'm not talking about custody of your daughter, madam. I believe that your son has been in serious difficulty with the law involving drugs, that there was drug use in the house with your daughter present. That's something that a father can be concerned. Don't say no when the answer is yes.
He wasn't, though, Judge Judy.
I don't believe you, madam.
Does he have a police record?
I don't believe you. I believe that your son was doing drugs in the house, not selling them. I didn't say selling them. You said smoking them.
Judge Judy, I have a paper right here where he accused me and my son and my daughter of being drug dealers.
Well, how do I know that's not true?
But because the Child Protective came to my house 3 unannounced times to find out if it was true.
And I want to tell you something. They couldn't find out if they came to your house 30 times to find out if you were selling drugs in your house, if you didn't want them to find out that you were selling drugs in the house. I don't want to hear it. Madam, he has the right, understanding that your son was a drug abuser, to question whether or not that house was a safe environment for his child. You do not have the right to, based upon the fact that you were annoyed, file an application for an order of protection without basis. You did that. I am awarding him $1,000 on his complaint, and I am dismissing your cross-complaint for him filing police reports and asking them to do an investigation as to whether or not there was drug activity in the house where his 8-year-old is living. I think that was appropriate.
It's not
Goodbye.
true. He's a liar. If he was so concerned about me selling drugs in my house, why didn't he come visit her more often?
I had to go to court to just to see my daughter, and before I would just pick her up.
Sometimes truth doesn't really come out.
What's going to happen? My daughter's going to grow up and see for herself that her mother's a liar.
And now the next case.
All parties on Restelli versus Waterstrat. Step forward, please.
21-year-old student Cara Restelli is suing former friend, 21-year-old student Megan Waterstrat, for the use of an international phone card. Megan says Cara left her stranded in Europe and the phone card was used for emergencies.
Okay, the facts of this case, I don't believe, are in dispute. You two ladies were good friends and decided to travel to Europe together.
Yes. Correct.
And sometime towards the beginning of the trip, you received word that the fiancé of a very good friend of yours had died suddenly.
Yes.
And you felt as if it was important for you to return home immediately to be with your friend.
Yes.
Okay. Where in Europe were you going?
We were traveling all around Europe, London, Italy, and we were supposed to go also to Spain and France.
How long was the trip?
It was supposed to be for 3 weeks.
How much into the trip had you received that information?
It was 9 days.
Okay. When you left the defendant with your phone card.
Correct.
That was really your father's phone card.
Right.
Yes.
Father phone card. Sit. And according to you, your father got a whopping bill.
Yeah.
The defendant's calls, and you want her to pay for those calls.
Correct.
Can I see the bill, please?
Yes. I have a list of all the phone calls she made as well as the actual phone bills. It spans over 2 months because it went from 1 month into the next.
Have you seen these?
Yes, I have. She sent them to me in the mail.
Any calls that you question?
No, I don't question any of them.
Okay. So what was the total amount of the bill that she is responsible for?
She made $849 worth of phone calls plus taxes and fees, which came out to $1,015.
Okay. There you go. Big talker.
Absolutely.
So why aren't you responsible for this bill?
Well, upon leaving, or Carol leaving Europe, she gave me the phone card for emergency calls. And in my opinion, all the phone calls I made were for emergencies. So I feel that I don't have to pay.
Well, let me understand this. She gave you the phone card because you didn't have one. Is that right?
That's correct.
And tell me about the conversation that you had with her when she gave you the phone card.
Well, I don't really remember specifically.
Then you don't remember specifically? Then you can't help me.
Oh, I can. Well, she said, here's a phone card, so when we leave, you know, you can use the phone card in case of emergencies. And so I did tell her that I would help pay for the phone bills, but she also agreed that she would not leave me alone in Europe, and she was willing to pay $500 for a ticket home. So when she sent me this bill, like, there was a disagreement between, like, she owes me $500, but yet
What she owe you $500 for?
Because she promised she would pay for a ticket home for $500. Like,
why should she pay for your ticket home?
Because she left me in Europe. Well, as it turned out, like, she left me. It was her decision to leave me. This trip had been planned out for quite some time, and it was a major expense. And I bought a restrictive ticket and could not change the date to fly home.
She had an emergency.
Well, of course, but
just a second. She had an emergency.
Well, of course she had an emergency, but in my opinion, it was an emergency that I thought she should go home for.
Were you having a good time for the 9 days that you were there?
With her?
Yes.
Yes.
You having fun?
Yes.
Wasn't as if you were having a miserable time and not getting along and you dumped her. No, you were having a good time.
Yes.
And you had, I assume, planned this trip for a long time. And wanted to continue with the trip.
Yes.
But you felt as if you had a moral obligation to go home and be with your friend.
Correct.
Excuse me, Honor. I also thought she had a moral obligation to stay with me because we were halfway across the world.
How old are you?
I'm 21.
Well, if you're 21 years old, madam, nobody has to babysit for you.
Of course not, but the whole reason why I went on this trip with a friend was to have, you know, to have a company, like, to have somebody there to talk to and share the experience with. So she left. That's not fulfilling her, like, obligation to me. I mean, I went on this trip.
Well, let me ask you this question. If you lost a member of your family, if you received word that a member of your family died while you were 9 days into the trip, do you think it would have been the right thing for you to do to go home?
With my friend, yes, and I would pay for her ticket home also.
Baloney. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,015. Grow up!
Now, this is case number 271 on the calendar, the matter of Rochelle versus Martin.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Miss Rochelle, you were the caregiver for the defendant's grandmother.
Yes, ma'am.
Who passed away on the 31st?
24th of January.
24th of January. It is your claim that the defendant slandered you by claiming that you took some money that you shouldn't have, that was her grandmother's money.
Yes.
I think that was in Social Security checks, that because she said that you had taken those checks and you weren't authorized to at that time, the money was taken out of your account, causing other checks that you wrote to bounce. So what you're suing her for is $5,000 for the aggravation that you had and the bounce check fees, etc., and also for slandering you.
Yes.
Ms. Martin is going to explain to me what happened. She says that this whole thing is really about an insurance policy that you had on the life of her grandmother, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So let me try to place this in perspective. Okay. Ms. Rochelle, when did you start to act as the caregiver for Miss Martin's grandmother?
In May of 1999.
What was wrong with her grandmother?
She couldn't walk very well due to rheumatoid arthritis, and she's a diabetic also, so she didn't get around very well.
Was your grandfather alive at the time?
In 99, yes, he was.
So were you caring for both of them?
I cared for him also, yes.
Were you living in or just?
Yes, I was a live-in.
Who hired you?
I wasn't really hired. I come here, they were my godparents. I moved here from Kansas City because I was here in December prior to May of 1999.
Oh, so you knew that they were your
godparents?
godparents?
I knew them,
I
yes.
didn't realize that.
So when I got there in December, saw what condition they were living in. I mean, adults, people shouldn't have to live like that. So when I went back home, I couldn't rest, so I came back out to try to get their home and get them in living condition, and I was going to go back home. I figured everybody else would take care of them. It didn't happen, so I was here till they both died.
So your grandfather died first?
Yes, he had Alzheimer's and other conditions.
So he had Alzheimer's?
Yes.
But not her grandmother?
No.
She just had physical problems?
Physical problems. She was very strong mentally.
Okay. And it was agreed that the Social Security checks were to be direct deposited into your account?
Well, it was agreed that that's how she would pay me, yes.
So she was paying you?
Yeah, the last year, the first 2 years I worked for, took care of her and Mr. Spivey with no pay.
How much was she paying you?
June of 2002, she started paying me $1,100 a month. But prior to that, she wasn't paying me anything.
Oh, just a second. Now, was that $1,100 her Social Security check?
Yes.
Now, when did you leave the employ of, what was your grandmother's name?
Mrs. Alberta Spivey.
When did you leave Miss Spivey's employ?
I came home one Friday evening, and she explained to me that Monday, which would be the 28th, that she would be going to the hospital and from there to a nursing home.
Okay. Now, you claim that she told somebody at the bank that you had stolen money or taken money. What money?
I have an affidavit with a check that Miss Martin accused me of stealing, which was a check that I received every month for Mrs. Spivey. For Mrs. Spivey.
What month?
November 1st.
Well, you weren't in her employ in November.
But she still expected me to take care of her. I was her sole provider.
No. She left on October 28th. November
Yes.
1st. You got the check. It should have been returned. Is that the check we're talking about?
The arrangement we made was that when Mrs. Spivey came to me in April of 2002, she didn't pay me for April. So when she left, by her not giving me a 30-day notice, I was supposed to keep November's payment also. That's the arrangement we made.
That's hearsay, madam. If she left your home on October 28th,
okay,
and if Miss Martin complained that you had taken November's check and appropriated it for yourself, and it was a Social Security check, then she didn't slander you. Is that the check you're complaining about?
Well, Mrs. Martin had no arrangement with Mrs. Spivey's no arrangement, you know. I mean, there's no written document saying I get this every month, I do that, you know. I cast a check, she'll give me what she wanted.
Well, if there's no written document, then you can't take her Social Security. Her Social Security goes to her. So if that's what you're complaining about, Miss Rochelle, your complaint is falling on deaf ears. She says that this is all about an insurance policy, and I'm sort of curious about that insurance policy. When did Miss Spivey take out an insurance policy naming you as beneficiary?
She had the insurance policy in 2001, but when she came to live with me, she complained the whole time. We talked previously on the phone.
Just answer my questions. You can't tell me what she said to me. She's not here.
August, I believe, of 2002.
August of 2002, she changed the insurance policy, making you the beneficiary.
Yes.
Who had previously been the beneficiary?
Her daughter in Topeka, Kansas.
And where did she go when she changed the insurance policy? Did she go to somebody's office, or did somebody come to her?
The insurance agent, which is present here in the court, he came to our home and took out the policy.
Who was the insurance agent?
Mr. Harvey.
Step up, please. Your last name is Harvey?
Yes.
May I interject for a moment, sir?
Yes.
The insurance policy prior to August 20th had lapsed. So a new application was issued August 20th, 2002, and this is the application to which plaintiff is referring.
So in August, when you came to the house, sir, she did not have insurance.
Correct.
Had you been Ms. Spivey's insurance agent previously on the old policy?
No.
And when you came to the house, you wrote up another insurance policy and named a different beneficiary. Is that correct?
Well, I
Is
don't
that
know.
correct? That you wrote up another policy with a new beneficiary?
Correct.
Just answer my question.
Well, I didn't know who the first beneficiary was.
Who determined, Ms. Martin, that the signature on this new policy was not your grandmother's signature?
The policy issued in August 20th, 2002 is her signature. The policy was amended in November. That is the signature my mother and I have disputed with Guarantee Life Insurance. That is not her signature.
What do you mean the policy was amended in November?
Okay.
Was the policy amended in November?
It was increased.
From what to what?
10 to 15,000.
November what?
About mid-month.
I have the
Who
exact
called
date, Your
you
Honor.
to increase the policy?
Miss Rochelle.
Miss Rochelle, who was no longer taking care of Miss Spivey. Is that right?
I was taking care of Miss Spivey. I was running back and forth to the nursing home taking care of her. Yes, I was.
On November 8th, she was not in the nursing home. She was at Brotman Medical Center.
Well, I was out there also. Records can show that, too.
But also, Your Honor, this policy is a joint whole life policy with my uncle and my grandmother. My uncle was incarcerated through at least January 19, 2003. His signature also appears on both applications. I don't see how that's possible.
I don't know either, but are you still in litigation with regard to that second policy?
We were told by Guarantee that the policy would not be paid. So
And it has not been paid, is that right?
Yes.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And later today,
He just all of a sudden started shaking the car, pushing it back and forth. Then he just swan dives on top of my roof. And I said, I'm going to call the cops. He says, you want me off your car? Come down here and make me get off your car.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Caregiver Dorothy Rochelle claims her deceased client's granddaughter, Joyce Martin, falsely accused her of stealing. Joyce says Dorothy took out a life insurance policy on her grandmother.
All right, not so hard. Miss Rochelle, you had no right to keep in your account Miss Spivey's Social Security check for the month of November of 2002. You were no longer taking care of her. The $1,100 was to provide for her care. She was either in a hospital or she was in a nursing home during the month of November. Both of those facilities were entitled to a piece of her Social Security check, not you. Ms. Martin.
Yes, ma'am.
She has a very simplistic lawsuit here. Her lawsuit says that you accused her of stealing money, of using money that she wasn't entitled to.
Correct.
And I've just told her that she wasn't entitled to that money that she had in her bank account. Okay. And that if, because of your complaint, that money was withdrawn from her bank account and she suffered damages because other checks bounced, that's too bad.
That's correct.
Too bad. She had no right to keep that money. It was a Social Security check. I've answered you. You had no right to keep the money. You may disagree with me. That's your problem. Your case is dismissed. Goodbye. Good luck.
Parties are excused. You can step out.
I took care of this woman, grandmother and grandfather, for 4 years. She was too good to take care of them.
The package I brought with me today are the remains of my grandmother.
That she got the audacity to take me to court when she never came around.
I had her here for moral support today.
She had her girlfriends and everything she's sleeping laying up with, but she couldn't take care of her grandmother. I did, put my life on hold, and I'm the bad guy now.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Weber versus Lamont. Step forward, please.
Contractor Jason Weber is suing his ex-girlfriend, Kathleen Lamont, for an unpaid loan for a truck.
Mr. Weber, you and the defendant lived together for a period of time. I think I read something about 3 years. Is that right?
Yes.
According to your complaint, when you broke up, which was recently, when was that?
It was in March of '03.
The defendant took with her a truck that is both titled and registered in her name. You claim purchased by you. The loan for the truck is in your name, and you want the money back.
Right.
Ms. Lamont says that this was not a loan. Ms. Lamont says this was a gift from you to her. You were living together. She came into the relationship with another car, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
You sold that car, got her another car, then sold that car, and then bought this truck, and there was never any talk about payment by her. You're only seeking payment now because you're no longer together. That's your defense.
Yes,
is that right? So I'd like you to tell me first who these people are. Who is this person?
This is my sister.
Is she a witness for you?
Yes.
A witness who will say what?
That Kathy stated to her that I was getting a loan for her for the truck.
And who are these people?
My son and my boyfriend, Scott.
Do they have any information with regard to this case, or are they just here for moral support?
It depends on how it goes, actually. My son has been present during most everything that's happened.
I'm not interested in most everything. I'm only interested in the truck. I have a very limited focus.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Weber. When the defendant and you first began to live together, what kind of a car did she have?
She had a '97 Dodge Stratus.
And what happened to that car?
At her request, I sold it.
To whom?
A friend of mine.
And how much did you get for it?
$3,500.
And what did you do with the $3,500?
Well, he's still paying me for it. I agreed to let him give me monthly payments on it.
And then what did she use for transportation, Mr. Weber?
She was driving my car, which was a '94 Ford Probe GT.
And what happened to that car?
At her request, I sold that one also.
Okay, well, that was your car to sell.
Right.
And then what was she driving?
We purchased a '99 Toyota Tacoma 4x4 pickup.
When you say we purchased,
Mm-hmm.
what does that mean?
I financed it, and she agreed to pay the payment. As you'll see, I took the $4,000 right off the top of the money that was owed on the truck, on top of the payments that she made on the truck.
Explain that to me.
I agreed to give her or pay off her car for a Christmas present, which was $4,000.
Pay off her car. Which car?
The '97 Dodge Stratus. I paid
You mean
for the
when
Dodge
you
Stratus.
sold that to your friends, she had money owing on that?
No. Yes, she had money owing on it, but I had paid it off. So it was free and clear when I sold it.
How much did she owe on it?
$4,000.
Is that right?
Yes, and he paid it off for my Christmas present that year.
Is that what you did?
Yes.
Okay. Then you went and sold the car.
Yeah. She didn't want it. She wanted the '94
But then
Ford Probe.
listen to me. If you went and sold the car afterwards, what kind of Christmas present was that?
A bad one. She got another car to replace it.
No, you said you gave her your car to drive.
I did.
You didn't give her another car. The other car, I assume, was in your
She
name.
got her $4,000 back with the '97 or '99 Toyota truck.
No. Mr. Weber, either you make a present or you don't, sir. If you say you made her a Christmas present in 2002, when you buy the truck, you don't make her another present
Right.
by deducting it. You made her a present. It was a gift. Goodbye. It's over. And what I don't understand is if you're a couple living together, I don't understand you saying, well, I'm going to buy a truck.
Mm-hmm.
Because you say, we purchased a truck. What were you driving at the time?
I had a pickup of my own.
Okay. So you bought this 1999 pickup. How many years ago?
It was last year.
Give me the date.
It was October of '02.
And in October of 2002, what were you doing for a living?
Me? I was working at a Chevron as a cashier and going to school full time.
And what kind of work were you doing?
I'm a contractor.
Now, from October 2002 until when you broke up, which is in what month?
March '03.
Who made the payments for the truck?
She did.
Is that right?
I made 5 payments on the truck, yes, from November to March.
Well, then that sounds to me as if there may have been an agreement for you to make the payments on the truck, Miss Lamont.
I agreed to help him out financially because he said he was having some problems, and I was only going to work until I was losing my job after March because I was starting an internship for school. So
There
we
were a
knew
lot of
I was
other
only-
ways, Miss Lamont, that you could have helped him out financially. Making the truck payment was not...
It wasn't a truck payment. It was a personal loan payment that he had. I have the title to the truck. I never knew there was going to be a loan on the truck in the first place. There wasn't supposed to be one.
Miss Lamont, how much were you paying towards this loan each month?
I paid $200 a month from November to March until I didn't have a job anymore.
Payment?
$200.
Then you knew there was a loan payment. Mr. Weber, how much is owed on the truck?
$5,100.
Now, problem is she hasn't made any payments. Is that correct?
Correct.
Since when?
Since March was her last payment.
Have you made the payments?
Yes, I have.
In what amount?
$200 a month.
April, May, June. $600?
Correct.
You owe him, at this point, $600. As a matter of fact, we're close enough to the time where you're going to owe him $800. But you are not entitled, pursuant to your contract with the defendant, to get an upfront amount of $5,100. You understand that?
No.
You didn't have an agreement for her to pay you $5,100. You had an agreement for her to pay you the loan. And there was not an acceleration clause that said that if she failed to make 1 or 2 payments, then the entire sum would be due and owing. Unless you have that agreement, I'll be more than happy to look at it.
That's all I'm asking for is for her to pay the payment.
Well, she's going to have to make the payments. Right now, she owes you what you've paid, which is $800.
That works for me.
Perfect. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $800. Thank you very much. Madam, I strongly urge you to get this loan in your own name, or perhaps your current boyfriend can help you out with a loan. Thank you. Because he's going to bring you back to court every few months for money. You got it?
Yeah, this is case number 240 on the calendar in the matter of Montani versus Smith. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats.
Just step up here, please. This used to be your boyfriend, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Miss Montani, this case is an interesting one, pretty unique even for me. Your daughter and the defendant's son were dating, and these 2 young people decided to go into a business together. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And that business involved the purchase of a pig, a breeding pig. And what were you going to do with this pig?
We were going to breed her and sell the piglets for people to show during the fairs.
That was your intention?
Yes, ma'am.
So each of you put in how much towards the pig?
$250 each.
And when did you purchase this pig?
June 3rd.
Have a picture of the pig?
Yes, ma'am. I have a few pictures.
Now, from what I gather, the pig remained at your house, Mrs. Smith. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And did, in fact, have 2 piglets?
Had 10 baby piglets.
And each of you kept 1, and you sold the others?
Yes, ma'am.
How much did you sell the others for?
$100 a piece.
At that point, you made $800.
We kept 2. Each of us kept 1 each, also to eat because they were smaller than the others. They were runts.
I'm asking, you sold 8 piglets?
No, ma'am.
You sold 6?
Yes, ma'am.
So you got $600. Now, what did you do with the $600 that you got from the piglets?
Crystal can answer that. She's got it broke down into what they had done with it.
What did you do with the $600, Crystal?
$128 on feed, $50 for warmer. We bought Nick's official dress for FFA, which was $76.
Okay, so you spent the money on things involving the business with this first litter. But then you each kept a pig.
Yes, ma'am.
And then I read that you went to a fair and your pig came in...
Second place.
Second place. And how much did you win?
$1,100.
And you got how much?
500 something.
And you kept that money, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you kept your $1,100?
Yes, ma'am.
So right now, this is so far a really good business. This is a really good business.
And a bunch of charming pigs.
And a bunch of charming pigs. Did you see these pigs?
Oh, lovely pigs. Some BLT, huh?
Shh. Okay. Now, this lawsuit is about the fact that you two are no longer in business because you're no longer a boyfriend and girlfriend. So you want your initial $250 back, right? And also some investment that your mother said she gave them for cement for the pig pen. You're not getting that back. Forget it. Let's talk about the initial $250 investment. Do you believe she's entitled to that back?
In a way, yes, ma'am, but the food also has cost way beyond that.
Just a minute. Is this pig pregnant again?
She was, but she's had another litter since then.
Really? So since you're no longer boyfriend and girlfriend, she's had another litter?
Yes, ma'am.
And how many did she have in the other litter?
She had 15, but 2 died.
Okay, so that's going to give you $1,300.
Yes, ma'am.
She's only suing for $250. You know, when you're in business together, just because you break up, that doesn't mean that she's not entitled to a fair percentage of the business. That would include a piece of these 13 piglets. You understand that?
Yes, ma'am, but that was after we had left, and that's after I was going to buy her out of her business, and that money came from my own personal money after she had left.
She left. What do you mean she left? You broke up. Just because you broke up, the business doesn't die. You still got the pig. Let me try to draw an analogy that maybe you'll understand. Let us say the two, look at me. Don't look at your mother. Look at me. Let's say the two people stop playing with your papers. Let's say that two people decide to go into business and they open up a restaurant together. And they each invest $5,000 to open up the restaurant. And they make their money back, just like you did. Got your initial investment back, but this restaurant really takes off. And this restaurant is now worth a lot of money. People break up. Girl leaves. She says, I want my $5,000 back that I put into the restaurant. You should say, here, take it. Because let's say your restaurant at that point is worth $100,000. She'd be entitled to half of that. Not $5,000, $50,000. Well, she invested half of the money that it cost to buy your restaurant, Miss Piggy. And Miss Piggy, so far, is worth a lot more than her $250 investment. You had $1,300 that she didn't partake in.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
$14,000 from an initial investment of $250. That is real good math. And all she wants is her $250 back. What do you think?
And later today,
he sent me a letter on March 23rd saying that I'm smart, I'm talented, I'm attractive.
I assume that you became interested in a more than professional relationship with the plaintiff. Would that be a fair statement?
Yes, Your Honor, it is.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Terry Montani says Stacy Smith and her son, 16-year-old Nicholas Link, owe for the cost of a pig.
All she wants in this lawsuit is her initial investment back. You should be very grateful, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Because in 6 months, your pig is going to have another litter of pigs. I don't know how many litters do they have in a year.
2, probably.
So let's say in any given year, they're going to have at least 20 pigs. Twice a year. You're going to make $2,000 a year. How many years can she go on and have piglets?
She can only be read about 6 or 7 times.
Well, let's see. So let's say you got minimum $2,000 a year times 7. That's $14,000 from an initial investment of $250. That is real good math. And all she wants is her $250 back. What do you think?
Yes, ma'am. That would have been paid to her when this whole thing started, but it just wasn't $250 that she was asking for. She was asking for, I think it was $475.
Right, she was. Well, I just told her that she wasn't going to get the $475.
Yes, ma'am. If that wouldn't have been there in the beginning, the $250 would have been paid straight up.
Perfect. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $250. That's all.
All right, you are excused. You may step out.
She came in the first year at the fair higher than Nick, and the second year she got more money through the auction.
She didn't want to take the time to talk about it or discuss anything.
Her jealousy of my daughter always making better, and it caused conflict.
I don't know what she's talking about.
I think Judge Judy did a good ruling, and I just want to get on and have the same opportunity that he had in starting a business.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Massey versus Walker, step forward, please.
19-year-old student Katrina Massey is suing her former neighbor, 21-year-old student Austin Walker, for damaging her car when he jumped on the roof.
Miss Massey, defendant was an acquaintance or a friend of yours, and you claim that he was acting like an idiot and a fool and dented your car.
Yes, ma'am.
Jumping up and down on your car. So why don't you tell me when this happened and tell me what happened?
This happened on May 7th of 2003. What happened was I was inside of my apartment complex in which we share the same apartment complex. I stay on the third floor.
You're on the third floor, he's on the...
On the lower level, right beside my car. Yes, ma'am. And so he calls me, he and his roommate called me to the window of my apartment, which is my bedroom. So I go to the window, we start having a regular conversation like any other, and I do know him.
What time is this?
Like around 7 o'clock.
Okay, go ahead.
So we're having a conversation, and then all of a sudden he starts like joking about my car. My car is small, and he starts joking about my car, and then he just starts shaking the car. And I'm like, what are you doing?
What is he saying about your car?
Just about, you know, how small it is, and look at this little car, and such and such and such. And he's always done little ignorant stuff and say little ignorant jokes to get my attention, because he does like me.
Because he's ignorant.
And he is. And so, you know, he does little stuff like that to get my attention. For instance, there has been times where he and his roommate both...
I don't want to hear about other times. Let's just stick to it. I have enough trouble dealing with this time.
Okay, well, so then anyway, he's talking about the car, and then he just all of a sudden starts shaking the car.
How was he shaking it?
Beside it, pushing it back and forth, rocking the car.
Where were his hands when he was rocking?
On the rim, like where the door would close at the top of the roof, right here. Like this, where the glass would be right here, and his hands were on the top of the roof.
So how is he pushing the car? Is he pushing the car up and down, or?
Pushing it, shaking it. His roommate was on the other side, which was the driver's side, with his hands in the same position, so the car was rocking back and forth. So then he continues to laugh and joke, and, you know, I'm like, get off my car, stop playing with my car. Then he just swan dives on top of my roof. So I'm like, what are you doing? Ha 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 ha, laughing and joking, whatever, with his roommate going back and forth. I got upset and started cursing. Then we get into an argument. He jumps off the car and does it again, like that, on top of my roof again. So then we have another argument. I said, I'm going to call the cops. Oh, I don't give a, you know, cursing and everything. Call the cops. Call the cops. I don't care. He says, you want me off your car? Come down here and make me get off your car. So then I went downstairs. He was still laying on the roof of my car. I said, if you don't get off the car, I'm going to get in it and pull off. Go ahead. Go ahead. I don't care. Go ahead.
Is that what she did? She got in the car and drove off with you on top of the car?
No, I wasn't on top of her car.
Oh, okay.
He was on top of my car, Your Honor. And then I got in the car. I cranked it up. He's still laying on the car. I told him again, Austin, get off of my car. I'm not getting off the car. Make me get off the car. So I pressed the gas. As soon as I drove and he jumped off the car, I drove off.
Can I see pictures of the car, please?
Yes, ma'am. The first picture is to show you how small the car really is compared to my height and his. Then there's pictures of the dents, there's pictures of the windshield guard that was ripped off, and there was also pictures of his handprints on top of my car, in which they're huge, so you can tell they're not my handprints at all. And when I realized that my windshield guard was broken off, I came back to the apartment complex and told him, look what you did to my car. He and his roommate.
What's this mark here?
His handprints.
This?
You can look. That was paint that was already gone. That was gone before he touched the car.
Right, I didn't think, because it looks rusted.
Yeah, that was already gone.
Okay, now let me hear your version, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Well, my roommate had picked me up from work earlier that day, and we came home. We were outside talking like we usually do sometimes before just going in the house, and we were dribbling the basketball. And we were outside talking, and then familiar voice from upstairs comes out screaming, "What are you guys doing out there?" She always talked to us from the third window before, nothing different. So we're dribbling the ball, and our roommate was dribbling the ball, and it got away from him, and it went over by her car. And that's when she was like, "You guys better stay away from my car." And I said, "No, the ball's not gonna do anything to your car." So we started talking back and forth again, and this time we were sitting there, we were actually talking to her through the window still. And since she came downstairs and we were outside, and my roommate My roommate was sitting by her car, and we were sitting by.
Don't close your eyes, sir. Keep
my roommate
them
was
open.
sitting by her car. His car was parked right next to her, so we're in between his car and her car. And she's still saying, don't sit around my car. So it comes to the fact that I stood behind her car, my roommate stood in front of her car. And she said, you guys get away from my car, I'm gonna pull off and I'm gonna hit one of you.
When did she come downstairs? She's up on the 3rd floor.
She came downstairs while we were still dribbling the ball. She came down, just got out the window, next thing you know, she was downstairs talking to us. So we were downstairs and we were talking still, and she tried to get in her car, and she was going to back up and hit my roommate. He got out the way. She pulled out like she still was going to hit him. Then when she went to go hit him, she was pumping her brakes, like, you know, stopping, like she was going to hit him so he can get out the way. That's when I went to the side of her car and started rocking her car back and forth. At this time, her car...
With her in it?
With her in it, yes. The plastic strip that protected the window seal...
What were you rocking her car for?
Because she was trying to hit my roommate, and I was just trying to...
Well, he can move pretty fast, can't you?
Yes, ma'am.
What were you rocking her car for?
I was rocking her car basically to get her attention because she was about to hit my roommate.
She wasn't going to hit your roommate. Even he wasn't worried. He could just take a step, right, sir?
I don't know about a step, but
you could get...
I could have died.
Sure you could, right, Mr. Walker?
Probably not. She was pretty close. He's not that fast.
Looks pretty fast to me. He was playing basketball with you, wasn't he?
We were just dribbling the ball. We weren't actually playing.
Was he dribbling it standing still, or was he moving around?
Just dribbling standing still.
Mr. Walker.
It's possible. You just dribble the ball and stand still.
Mr. Walker.
Yes, ma'am.
So you start rocking her car back and forth.
And
now, where were you just a second. Where were you holding on to the car when you were rocking it back and forth?
Or she sat at the seal at the top, rocking it back and forth like this. And then that's when the plastic strip came off. She said, oh, you broke my car. You know, I'm gonna make you pay for that if you don't fix it. So I popped it back into place for her. So at this time, she pulled off, parked again, got out the car, said, well, I'll see you guys later. I'm going to pick up my boyfriend. So we stayed outside for another half hour talking. She rolled back up and said that how the piece fell off on the highway and I was going to pay for it. And then at that time, she said, well, it costs $113. Now it's a piece you can get at AutoZone for $15. And so I said I wasn't going to pay for it. So I'm not paying for that. So I went in the house, went about my business.
Okay, step up. Tell me your name.
Alonzo Frink.
Tell me your story.
I had went and picked my roommate up from work, and we came home, and we was outside just talking. I was just standing around dribbling the basketball, and he's like, pass it to him. So I passed it, and it got away from me. Like, I passed it a little too hard, and it rolled by his car. And that's when she came to the window, and she was like, y'all need to stay away from my car. Stop playing around my car. And we was like, we're not playing around your car. Nobody's going to hurt your car. And later on, she came down, and she was just like, I need to get away from my car before I hit y'all with it.
Why would she say that if you were in your car? Maybe she was hallucinating. You think so?
Maybe.
You have a crush on her?
Not at all.
Little one?
Not at all.
Mr. Walker, you can't put your hands on other people's property. Even according to your own testimony, you put your hands on her car and you rocked her car back and forth. Mm-hmm. And I find that there was no basis for you to do that because all your friend had to do was step out of the way. And you did that because you were being a wise guy. She got a little dent on the top of her car. A little piece came off of her car. It's not a big deal. It's going to cost a few $100s to fix it, if she's going to fix it at all. She certainly didn't fix the rust spots that were there for a much longer period of time, right?
It was there when I bought the car.
You certainly didn't fix it, right?
I don't work, so.
Right. So I don't know how much this little dent that's on the hood of the car is going to trouble you. In any event, you should be able to get the whole thing fixed for about $350, and that's what I'm awarding you, because you can't put your hands on somebody else's property, sir. Do you understand?
I do understand that,
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $350, that's all.
Now, this is case number 341 on the calendar, the matter of Corbello versus Berdino. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Sir, have a seat, please.
Ms. Corbello, you and your husband and child rented a room from the defendant. It is your claim that she owes you for rent and some property of yours that she kept when she evicted you.
Yes.
The defendant says that you and your husband were terrible to her, especially your husband, and that she really had to evict you because you were taking advantage of her, had done a series of terrible things to her, which she's, of course, going to tell me about, that she owes you no rent, and she, as far as the things that you say that she has that belong to you, she doesn't mention that at all. So do you have any property that belongs to the plaintiff?
The property that was left there was put into my garage. I informed this lady that if she would call 24 hours prior to her coming over, she could take everything she has.
Okay, so and come and take property whenever you want it.
Yeah, but the problem is because of the way that she behaves and the way that she put this fake restraining order on me, I am horrified to go over there to pick up anything.
Go with a police escort.
Okay, that's what I plan on doing.
Very easy. Go with a police escort. If she has a restraining order against you, I suggest that you do that. When did you rent the room from her?
We began renting the room from her at the beginning of March.
And how did you find the room?
My brother-in-law lived there, and my husband was going over there to help him with work around the house, and that's when he found out that she was going to be renting a room.
You say that she owes you for some rent.
Yes. Okay, can I just tell the whole thing how we even ended up here? Because we wouldn't be going through any of this if she would have just handed me an eviction notice, or at least gave me notice that she wanted me out of the house, but which she did not do. That's how the restraining order came up, which was all lies.
Okay. Ms. Cabello, let me try to simplify it, and I think that I can probably do it quickly. You moved in March, and according to your complaint, you took your son to the doctor sometime in July of 2003.
Yes.
When you took your child to the doctor did routine tests and found that the child had elevated levels of lead.
Right.
Okay? And you believe that the elevated levels of lead came from the defendant's home. So you contacted the health department.
No.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. The health department comes out, or you tell her that you called the health department, and she is appalled that you called the health department, because they're going to come in, and if she's got lead paint in her house, they're going to say to her, you have to rip out all the walls, sand down all the walls. She'd much rather have you out of there. Right?
Right.
Right. I don't know what you were looking for her to do. Were you looking for her to spend $25,000 to redo all the paint in her house?
No.
She's an old lady. She's not worried about getting lead poisoning.
I understand that, but
Good.
the agreement was when we moved in there that I was going to help her with things around the house, and that she was going to have my husband renovate all the other things that were wrong with the house. I have pictures here of her house, plus a report from the health department of all the things that she should have taken care of. Now, had she
Miss Cabello, you were renting a room. Maybe she didn't want your husband to take care of everything. Listen, I'm going to read her answer to you. The husband, Oswaldo Cabello, began taking checks from my checkbook and proceeded to forge my signature. On April 15, 2003, I called the fraud department of Wells Fargo Bank and canceled my checking account. Later, he had stolen my ATM card and took every penny from my account. It was Wells Fargo that notified me of such. Okay, now, I'm not saying whether that's true or not true, but clearly she didn't want your husband to do all the renovations in her house. And she didn't want to have anything to do with him. That's what her answer says. In any event, what you chose to do, instead of saying to her, listen, we have a problem here, I can't continue to rent a room from you because it may be your house that's exposing my child to lead paint. That's, of course, if you're not watching him, because children don't breathe in this lead paint that's from eating the paint chips that fall off.
But I did warn her that they were coming.
Listen to me carefully. I don't care whether you warned her or not. Instead of calling the health department, you could have come and said to her, we're going to have to move out, because unless you do your whole house, I can't stay here with my family.
I did do that. I asked her for 2 weeks. I did do that.
Just a minute, did you ask her for 2 weeks before or after you called the health department?
I told her that the health department was coming out.
Just answer my question.
I don't recall.
Of course. You already called the health department. Now, what rent money does she owe you?
I have receipts here for 4 months, $500, $300, $300, $300, and also a check for $950.
So what? Just a second. How much rent were you supposed to pay?
My rent was only $300 a month, so I was overpaid on the rent.
Just a second. You're going to have to explain to me why, if your rent was $300 a month, that you were giving her $400 a month or $500 a month. Can you explain that?
Yes.
Good. I'd like to.
The first month's rent was only supposed to be $300 plus $150. She kept.
Just a minute. How was that? I don't understand. I never heard of
$150 for deposit because we just moved in. But she kept complaining about, oh, your child needs this, and I need a high chair because I don't want him running around on the floor, and blah, yada, yada. My husband ended up just giving her $500, okay? Then the next 3 months, we ran into some financial problems, but my husband found a place that would help us pay the rent because she was harassing us so bad. So I found an agency that helps people that have problems with rent, that would help us pay for our rent until we were able to catch up.
How many months did you live there?
6 months.
The rent was $300. Even my rudimentary math tells me that you should have paid her $1,800.
We paid $1,400. The check that she received was $950, which is a total of $2,350.
Is that right?
No.
We have receipts right here. I can show them to you.
Those are receipts that he asked me to write when he was in jail so that he could obtain a check for me.
Her lies are getting bigger and bigger.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Your husband beat you up so badly he ended up in jail.
No,
he was in jail.
He was in jail. Me
what?
Once.
Speak not.
And later today.
Do you want to think a little bit more closely as to why you served 90 days, sir?
Going 120 on a public street.
You were charged with reckless endangerment.
Yes, ma'am.
They still come and they think they're smarter.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Puni Curbelo says former landlord Ellen Berdino won't return her property. Ellen says Puni reported her to the health department.
When was he in jail?
May and June.
Where was he in jail? In what county?
Los Angeles.
What was he in jail for, do you know?
Domestic
spousal
violence.
abuse.
That was committed while in your home?
Yes.
Lovely. Perfect. So what you're telling me is these receipts, I want to see the receipts. These receipts were written at his request in order to obtain this $950 check from the government.
Yes.
I'm just asking her what she's saying.
That is such a lie.
Okay. If you paid her all these months that you were supposed to, and she's lying that these weren't just receipts in order to obtain this $950 check, then the County of Los Angeles will come back against her and get the $950.
Which they're going
but
to
there
do.
is no way in the world that I'm going to give you that money.
I'm not asking
You live
for
there.
it.
You are asking me for it. You said you want reimbursement for rent. That's what you're asking for in your lawsuit. Okay, so you don't get the reimbursement for rent. You do get your property. 5 days, go there with a police officer. Pain and suffering. What? Pain and suffering.
She sent my sister over to beat me up. These are pictures. After my sister did it, she went and picked her up so that she can come and see the damage and so she can get a good laugh, which she did. These are pictures. I really would like you to see those.
Just a second.
And I really wish you would look at these pictures
Listen.
of this house that we had to live in. It's not fair. She's sitting there sweet and demure like she's not a monster.
You are
And
not
she
in
is.
prison.
I'm not
You
saying
are not.
I was there
Listen
to help
to me.
her, and we were supposed to help each other.
Are you related to this lady?
No, but I thought we were
Listen,
friends.
You're not friends. She was renting you a room.
She's a friend of the family, though.
Listen to
That's
me.
the thing. We
No,
knew
Madam, you're not getting it. You moved into her house. You were supposed to pay rent. You moved in with your child and your husband. While you were in her home, your husband beat you up so badly he ended up in jail.
No, he
was
didn't
in jail.
beat me up. He
was in
slapped
jail.
me
What?
once.
Speak not. He was in jail. They don't put people in jail for the month of May and June for nothing. Not even in the county of Los
It was one
Angeles.
slap, and there was no marks when the police officer showed up.
Madam, was it the first time he was arrested for domestic violence? The answer is no, because then you don't go to jail for May and June if it's the first time that he slapped you. That doesn't happen. I sat in family court for many, many years. You're not going to get a dime from this lady. If you moved into her house and you didn't like it because it was a disaster, what you do is you, your husband, and your child pick up and leave. You're not serving a sentence, but you don't turn around and sue her. Ridiculous. And then expect this money that you got from the County of Los Angeles to be returned to you.
I'm not asking for that money.
You
I was
did.
asking for that money to be applied towards the rent. It was supposed to be for the first and the last month's rent and the deposit. That's what that was for.
No, if you can afford to pay your own rent, pay your own rent. And give the money back to the county. Your case is dismissed. Goodbye.
All right, Judge. Hey.
She is a very vindictive, deceitful person. The detective has pictures of him at the ATM. He even borrowed my car and you could see my car in the distance. I don't think I shall be inviting anyone else into my home.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Johnson versus Simon. Step forward.
Operator Sharon Johnson is suing her daughter, 26-year-old homemaker Celicia Simon, for an unpaid loan when she fell on hard times. Sharon claims Celicia is trying to call it a gift.
Miss Johnson, this is your daughter, and it is your claim that she owes you for some rent when she lived with you for 3 months.
Yes, ma'am.
And also a loan of $2,500. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Quite frankly, Miss Johnson, I'm not so interested in the rent that you claim she owes you for the 3 months that she lived there. You indicate in your complaint that your daughter and her children needed a place to live. They moved in with you. She agreed to give you $300 a month. She didn't have it at the time. She stayed with you for 3 months. That's $900. And subsequently, you all decided that it would be best if she and her children had their own place to live. She needed rent, first class, and security. I don't know what it was. So you gave her $2,500. According to you, it was a loan. I'm going to stick with the $2,500 because when your daughter and her children need a place to live, you don't say, you have no money, but I'm going to charge you $300 for rent. You'll give it to me when you have it. That's not what a mother does. Do we understand each other, Miss Johnson?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. So now let's deal with the $2,500 loan. Tell me when you gave her the loan and what it was for.
I gave her the loan at the end of November of '03, and it was for to help with either down payment or something concerning on a place that her children and her husband were going to move into.
When she was living with you, was her husband living with you also?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you have a house?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
How large a house is it?
It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath.
And it was just you living there?
No, ma'am.
Who else lives there?
Myself, my husband, and my 2 sons.
You work?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Your husband works?
Yes, ma'am, he does.
What about your 2 sons?
One of them is in college, the other one is working.
Okay. How many children do you have?
I have 2.
And why did you have to move in with your mother?
I fell upon hard times. I lost my job.
And what about your husband? Did he lose his job too?
He was in between jobs.
What kind of work do you do?
I do phlebotomy work. I draw blood.
And he?
He's a crew member at a fast food restaurant.
How old are your children?
I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old.
How long have you been married?
I've been married 3.5 years.
Okay, your mother gave you $2,500, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you discuss with her paying her back?
No, ma'am.
That's not true.
Go ahead.
Before I loaned her the money, things were getting tight at the house, and she said she had found a place. Could she borrow some money? I asked her how much. She said $2,500. I said, okay, well, how are you going to pay me? She said, well, Mom, you know, I'll get my income tax check in February, and I'll pay you then. I said, okay. And then a few days later, I went to the bank, got a cashier's check, and loaned her the money.
Did she get her income tax check?
She said she did.
When was the first time you asked her for this money back?
It was in March, because February, she wasn't returning any calls to me.
Tell me about the conversation.
Well, when I caught up with her, I said, CC, where's my money? Mom, I'm going to go in and give you the $900 back. No. Where's all of my money? I want my $900 and I also want my $2,500. $2,500? I thought that was a Christmas gift. I don't think so. I can't just give away $2,500. And so it was like, but Mommy, no, I don't remember. I remember us making an agreement. You and I, your husband stay in the background like you always do, since he's always on a vacation. So when are you going to get my money? I'll talk to you later on. And when she hung up, that teed me off. So then I tried to take it to court.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Over the course of time, I have given loans, spent loads and loads of money on my children. I would never, ever sue them. Never.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Sharon Johnson says her daughter, Celicia Simon, owes for a loan to pay her bills. Celicia insists the money was a gift.
You have 2 brothers.
Yes, ma'am.
You know that your mother gave them Christmas presents?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you discuss that with your brothers?
Yeah, like, you know, just when brothers and sisters get together and they discuss
Well, what did
it.
you talk to them about?
Well, my brothers, one of them was getting a car, and then one of them was getting, like, screens in his car and the big rims on his car or whatever. So it was just like, you know, I'm going to get back on my feet by getting into my own place. And my one brother would have transportation so he could get a better job, and the other brother, he's the youngest and the most spoiled.
Well, Miss Simon, what I believe is that you acknowledge that you owed your mother $900 for rent, right?
I think that I was thankful for my mother giving me and my family a place to stay, I wasn't able to compensate her.
What your mother said was, when she spoke to you, you said to her, well, I know, Mom, I know I owe you the $900.
I mean, she was calling every... Your Honor, you don't understand.
No, I understand. I don't think that that's something that you have to call for, but if you acknowledge that you owed her the $900 and you did get your income tax refund, which is what she was waiting for, why didn't you give her back the $900?
It was a tight situation, which is why I, needed help in the first place. My family was just in a very bad spot.
Well, then why didn't you call her and say to her, Mom, I know I promised to give you the money back when I got my tax refund, but things are pretty tight. Why did you wait for her to call you?
She knew I was in a bad situation. I didn't feel like I should have to go to her and explain to her, hey, a couple months later, I'm still in a tight situation. I still can't give you any money.
Why? Is your mother rich?
No, she's not rich.
She's not rich. How old are you?
I'm 26.
You have 2 children, you have a husband, you have a home, you're an independent person. That means you have to act like a grown-up.
Yes, ma'am.
So if you borrow money from somebody and you acknowledge at least the $900, then if you can't pay them back, the time when you say you're going to pay them back, you pick up the phone and say, I know I said I could pay you back. Can I get a little bit of an extension? Can I give you back something? Can I give you $100?
It became such a big thing that, like, at family gatherings or whatever, it just always wound up being a big argument. She continued to make a huge scene about it every time we got together at family.
Miss Simon.
Yes, ma'am.
Has your mother always been like that? Oh, yes. Big questions, yes or no?
Yes,
Has she always been like that?
Yes, ma'am.
Then you shouldn't have borrowed money from her.
I didn't borrow money from her. I told her I needed help.
No. You acknowledge that you owed her at least $900. And if you know that that's the way she is about money, you shouldn't have taken other money from her.
That's how bad I needed it. I mean, it was the last option. I couldn't continue to be there in her house. I didn't want to take my family, to a shelter.
Well, what was your husband doing?
He was working.
Was he working 5 days a week?
Not always.
Is he working now?
Yes, ma'am.
5 days a week?
Yes, ma'am.
And what about you?
I'm a homemaker. I take care of my 2 children.
I just asked you what kind of work you did, and you told me that you drew blood.
Yes, ma'am. I just recently lost a child, so I haven't been working. When I found out I was pregnant at the beginning of the school year, I decided to take the school year off just to be at home a little more with the kids and everything, and also because I was pregnant, and I just recently lost my child. You're not supposed to have more children until you can support the ones you have. Does that sound harsh to you? No, ma'am. I hope not. I mean, I'm telling you this because I think that sometimes people lose sight of that. That if you have 2 children and you have to go back to your mother for money, then you don't make more babies. Having children is very nice as long as you can take care of them. Your mother's not a rich lady, but you can't look at your siblings and say, because they got Christmas presents, I should have gotten one too. But she's not taking any of them to court. She's taking me to court. I'm the only girl. Those are her precious boys, They got money to go and get a car, to go and get screens in his car. I mean, when I was that age, she wasn't giving me money to go put screens in my car. I don't think that your mother... I know she can do what she wants with her money. Yes, I don't think that your mother would say that this was a loan unless she honestly believed that this $2,500 that she gave you was money that you were supposed to return. I think that you've been, for want of a better term, and I don't necessarily like this term, I don't think that you can allow your jealousy of your younger brothers to interfere with the rest of your life. If you feel as if your mother favors the 2 boys... She does. Well, I don't know whether you were a more difficult child, a less difficult child, who knows? But you will find that during the course of your life there will ebb and flow with regard to which of your children you like better than others. You may love them all, but at various times in their lives you will like some better than others. Fair?
Fair.
Love all. Love them all. Yeah. But at various times, depending upon what they do to drive you crazy and to make you gray, you will like one more than another. You can't let that interfere with your whole life. Ms. Johnson, I'm going to award you your $2,500 for this loan that you gave your daughter, but I'm going to give you a little lecture at the same time. Yes, ma'am. Over the course of time, I suppose I have given, loaned, spent, whatever, loads and loads of money on my children. I would never, ever sue them in a court. Never. That's not what parents do to their children. Unless the children are really, really bad people. And your daughter may have made some mistakes in her life, but she doesn't seem like a bad person. She's reasonably articulate. She's been in a relationship with her husband for a long time. She has 2 children. This is the husband, right?
Yes.
Well, you may not like him. You may not like him, but I want to tell you something. You didn't like your first husband either. Right?
No, I didn't.
Right?
Yes,
so you
ma'am.
made a mistake.
Yes, ma'am.
So she doesn't seem like a bad girl. And I'm telling you that while I'm giving you a judgment for $2,500, I think you made a big mistake by suing her. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Council's case number 475 on the calendar in the matter of Martin versus Hall. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Mr. Martin, it is your claim that the defendants, this gentleman in particular, caused damage to your car in an accident, and the accident was his fault. Mr. Hall says that it was your fault, and you don't know why, anyway, that you're suing him because he wasn't driving. It was Miss
Hall
who was driving the car. So you must have not been watching carefully.
Apparently.
When did this incident happen?
September 17th.
Where were you?
I was in Maitland, Florida, turning into a gas station.
What happened, Mr. Martin?
I was turning into the gas station to buy gas, and I seen the Halls coming at a very high rate of speed through the parking lot, so I stopped.
Through the parking lot or through the gas station?
Into the parking lot of the gas station.
There's a chart over there that the Halls brought. Is the red car yours?
That's similar to what happened.
Where were you coming from?
I was coming from the north, turning in just like that shows, and I stopped, and he come crashing into me. He was driving probably about 45 miles an hour through that parking lot.
Okay. What kind of a car were you driving, sir?
Mazda 626.
And where was the car hit?
Right in the passenger side in the front. Knocked the bumper
Do you have a
completely off.
photograph?
Yes, ma'am.
May I see it, please?
Sure.
Is there damage to the hood?
The bumper was knocked completely off, and the hood and all the lights were knocked out in the grill.
All right, now what happened after the collision, sir?
After the collision, I started to call the police, and Mr. Hall came over and said, "I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Please don't call the police. I'll have someone take care of your car for you." But my car was not drivable. So I proceeded with calling the police, and then I observed Mr. Hall removing the license plate from the car.
From whose car?
From his car. So when
Yes.
the police got there, I told him that he had taken the license plate off of the car and put it in the trunk. He went and found it, and then they claimed that Mrs. Hall was driving, but that is definitely not the case. So the police officer ticketed him for removing the tag from the car because that tag did not belong to their car, and then ticketed her for driving with no insurance and for careless and reckless driving.
On their statement that it was Mrs. Hall who was driving.
That's what they're claiming, yes.
But it wasn't Mrs. Hall who was driving.
No, ma'am.
It was Mr. Hall.
Mr. Hall was driving. And on page 2 is the correct diagram. It's very similar to that, but it shows my car in a straight line, not in an angle like that.
Why did you take the plate off the car, Mr. Hall?
Because the plate did not belong to that car, Your Honor.
Why not?
Because we put it on the car to transport the car to a sale lot to put the car up for sale.
Well, where were you coming from, Mr. Hall?
We were going from our residence to the gas station. We were putting gas into the vehicle and then taking the vehicle up to put it up for sale.
Where were you taking it to put it up for sale?
Literally 2 blocks away from there, which is also just a couple blocks away from our residence, Your Honor.
Well, Mr. Hall, that doesn't make sense, sir. It doesn't make sense that why you would be putting gas in a car to take it to a place for 2 blocks.
Because it was on dead E, and we're afraid the vehicle would run out if someone was to test drive it, Your Honor.
Huh. When did you buy this car, sir?
A few weeks before that, Your Honor.
From whom?
I
You're
don't
looking
remember.
down at your feet, sir.
I don't remember the name, the gentleman's name, Your Honor.
Did you have a bill of sale for it?
No, ma'am, not on me.
Did you have it then?
No, ma'am, I did not.
You're pretty slippery, sir. Show me where your car was hit, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Which is your car?
The blue car, Your Honor, is our car,
Right. I got it.
and our car was hit
Now.
right where the highlight spot is.
I see it. But you passed the gas tank, sir. Did you put gas in the car already?
Yes, ma'am.
Who put the gas in the car?
I believe I did. And I ran
I want
inside.
you to think. I want you to think. Who put the gas in the car?
I put in the gas, Your Honor.
Do you have a license to drive a car?
I do, yes, ma'am.
Did you then?
It was suspended, Your Honor.
So the answer is you did not have a license to drive then.
No, ma'am.
So you had no license, no registration, no insurance.
Yes, ma'am.
So there would have been a good reason for you to lie to the police and tell them that your wife was driving when you were driving? There would have been a reason and a motive, because you would have been taken in if you were driving on a suspended license. Isn't that correct, sir?
Yes, there's also a reason why I let her drive, because she is legal and not suspended.
Listen to me very carefully, sir. On your best day, you're not as smart as I am on my dumbest day.
I understand, Your Honor.
Good. My question to you was, there was a reason for you to lie to the police, to tell them that your wife was driving the car. There would have been a reason, because you had already had your license suspended, right?
Yes, ma'am.
For what?
For not paying a seatbelt ticket, Your Honor.
Baloney. Now, where did you get the license plate from, sir, that you put on this car?
From one of our other vehicles.
How many other vehicles do you have?
2, Your Honor.
Who insures them?
My wife and I do.
With what company?
Progressive, I'm sorry.
And were the other 2 vehicles insured at the time of this accident with Progressive?
Yes, ma'am. May
Why
not have been.
was... What?
Excuse me, Your Honor. May not have been with Progressive. Progressive is our current one, I believe.
Well, why don't you tell me, sir, because it's very easy to check. Why don't you tell me, what was the other company that you were with back in September that insured your other 2 cars?
I don't recall the insurance company off the top of my name, Your Honor.
Off the top of your name, you don't...
Off the top of my head, I'm sorry.
You don't.
I'm nervous.
You're nervous because you're lying, sir. And you know that I'm going to be able to prove that. Before the police arrived, when you took the plate off the car and put it in the trunk, what did you hope to accomplish by that, sir?
Avoiding the ticket for attaching tag not assigned, Your Honor.
Now, don't you get a ticket for driving without tags, period?
Yes, Your Honor.
So what would be the difference in putting the tags in the trunk? You were going to get a ticket either way, either for driving with no tags or for driving with somebody else's tags on your car. So what difference did it make?
None. Except to try keep him from getting a ticket.
Well, don't you think people get tickets, sir, when they drive without license plates?
Yes, Your Honor.
Because that's why you supposedly took the license plate off one car and put it on another, so you wouldn't get a ticket,
Yes,
right?
Your Honor.
So that doesn't make sense to me. What did the police do with that license plate, sir?
They confiscated it, Your Honor.
And what did you do with the car from where the license plate had been removed?
The vehicle stayed right where it was, Your Honor.
And where is it to this day, sir?
In our driveway, Your Honor.
Without license plates?
It has been licensed and insured.
How did you get new license plates for it?
I just applied for a new plate, Your Honor.
You have to say what happened to the old plate, sir, if the car had been registered.
The vehicle hadn't been registered in our name prior to that, Your Honor.
Oh, so you had yet another car in your arsenal of cars that hadn't been registered in your name at the same date that you had this accident.
It's a vehicle that my sister allowed for us to drive because we didn't have a dependable vehicle at the time to drive, Your
Well,
Honor.
what about the third car that you had home, sir?
It wasn't.
Vehicle.
What?
It's a work vehicle.
What is a work vehicle? What does that mean?
It's a truck that we use to do landscaping and lawn maintenance that
So?
pulls a trailer. And it's decaled up, and insurance will not cover that if we are in an accident when we are not working.
Okay, so we're going to do this. We're going to play. At the time of this accident on the 17th of September, 2004, who had a driver's license? Raise your hand. The time of this accident on September 17th, 2004, who had a registered vehicle? On September 17th, 2004, who had a vehicle with appropriate tags on it? On September 17th, 2004, who was driving a car illegally? Good! Perfect. Okay. Shooting fish in a barrel. Can I see the estimate for your car, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
What a bunch of hustlers. Not you, Mr. Martin.
I also have, Your Honor, a letter from the Halls stating that Mrs. Hall is guilty of this charge because we originally had an agreement for the Halls to pay me $400 a month beginning on November the 10th. And I know you're not going to believe this, but that didn't happen.
The only thing that I don't believe, sir, is that you believed them, that it was going to happen.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
when we separated, we were not on talking terms. I needed money.
So you claimed the children as your deduction, even though he supported them.
Yes, ma'am.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Rick Martin says fellow motorists Jennifer and Dennis Hall ran into him in a gas station parking lot. Rick claims Dennis was the driver, but after the accident, he switched places with his wife.
I have a net total of $2,966.35. Is that your estimate?
That's the estimate to fix the rest of the damage. I've already spent over $2,000.
You have those bills?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see them, please.
In those estimates, Your Honor, he's also trying to recoup, he's trying to double charge for repairs that he made once originally on his first repair bill.
And I have a listing of those if you'd like to see
And
it.
then he's trying to get the same repairs covered again on his estimate he had previously handed
Are you trying to do that, sir?
No, ma'am.
Did you have a deductible on the car?
I had only liability. I did not have full coverage on the car because it's paid for.
Okay, what did Allstate pay you?
Allstate only paid the tow bills. And I tried to relay that message to the Halls, but they would not return any of my calls to find that out. So.
They wanted you to go away, like their license plates.
Yes.
Your Honor, he when he originally showed up at our doorstep, he was demanding the $14.95 and repayment as well as new headlights.
So how much? Just a second. So how much did you give him, Mr. Hall?
I gave him $0.
Well, now you're going to give him $4,834. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
The first thing I thought was they were going to drive away.
We like to buy and sell vehicles, and my husband was in the back seat.
I didn't ask him what he was doing. I took a photograph of the license plate. I could still tell you the number of that license plate right now.
When the gentleman hit us, my husband bounded out of the back seat, driver's side, and of course everybody thought he was getting out of the driver's seat.
I think that they're professional con men or deadbeats. I don't know.
When Jennifer asked to see some type of receipts or anything, he didn't provide any. Instead, he just went and got additional estimates and came up with this claim with that.
When I went to his house, he told me that I was not the first person that he ran into. That would be why he doesn't have a driver's license.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Lake versus Lake. Step forward, please.
Marketing rep Keith Lake is suing his son, 23-year-old DVD duplicator Jonathan Lake, for an unpaid loan to buy a car. Jonathan says he paid back his father by sending him care packages in prison.
Mr. Lake, the defendant is your son, and according to your complaint, sir, he made a loan to him several years ago for the purpose of his buying a car. He made several payments and then ran into some financial difficulty. You want the balance of your money.
Correct.
Your son acknowledges that you did make this loan. I think it was for a little over $6,000. And acknowledges the fact that he stopped making payments when he had some
Financial difficulties with my son.
but says that you forgave the loan. And he has a very interesting theory of how and when you forgave the loan. So why don't you, Mr. Lake, tell me why and when your dad forgave this loan?
Okay, in November of, what was it, last year, I believe it was, he ended up going into being incarcerated or whichever.
Not whichever. He ended up being incarcerated.
Incarcerated.
For what?
Tell you the truth, I really don't know.
For what, Mr. Lake?
DUI with injuries.
You hit somebody and caused physical injury while you were drunk.
Yes.
Was this your first DUI?
Yes.
Okay. How much time did you serve?
9 months.
So he was incarcerated.
And I had I had got a call, and what happened was he ended up telling me that if I took care of him while he was incarcerated, such as care packages, when he got out, we were supposed to be square. And I turned around and I said, okay, fine. Well, he got out, and then I was told that we weren't.
How many care packages did you send him?
I sent him at least 4. There's one.
Shh. You have receipts from those?
Actually, no, but I have a witness that was with me when I mailed them off. His name is Elliot Carruthers.
All right, Elliot, why don't you step up here? Tell me about this care package that you saw.
Sorry. Well, it's basically usual stuff like candy, cookies, and it was something about exactpackage.com.
So he didn't go and pack something. What he did was he called a company to send them to his father?
Your Honor, you can only get a package every 90 days. I didn't contact him till maybe after 4 months, 3 months I was inside. The package at the most was worth $100, and that's why I feel.
What did you say? What did you say to him when you called him?
I didn't call him. I sent him a letter. Okay.
What did the letter say?
that, you know, I was disappointed, I'm embarrassed that I'm busted where I'm at, and that I need him to, instead of paying me $400 a month, I asked for $200, you know, $50 a week that I could spend there. Because he had two. I'd also just got out of jail on a suspended sentence. He was down for 90 days.
For
so
what?
I gave him 90.
For what?
Suspended license.
Why was your license suspended?
I'm originally from New Mexico. And when I moved out here, I had one ticket that I didn't know about in New Mexico. It was for like $80. And when I drove out here, I had been pulled over, didn't know it, and he said he couldn't let me drive, and I was taken in.
Well, first of all, you were taken in, not taken in.
Sorry.
There's no such word as taken.
My mother corrects me on that, too.
Well, good. I'm glad I'm making you feel at home. And they don't take you to jail for 90 days for that, sir. Let me explain something to you. They don't take in or otherwise you to jail for 90 days because you didn't realize that you had a ticket back in New Mexico that you didn't pay. So you want to think a little bit more closely as to why you served 90 days, sir?
I was also pulled in for exceeding the speed limit, going
well, now we're getting better.
Going 120 on a public street.
That might be worth 90 days. You were charged with reckless endangerment.
Yes, ma'am.
Right?
Yes, ma'am.
They still come and they think they're smarter. Do you want to know why you're not smarter? If you ask Bird how many times he served 90 days in prison, you know what he's going to tell you? If you ask me how many times I served 90 days in prison, you know what I'm going to tell you? Does that make me smarter or you smarter?
It'd be you.
It would be me. And he.
And me.
So can I see the receipts for this send a care package to prison.com where you sent your father some care packages?
I was, okay, on that incident, I was married, and I had recently gotten divorced, and she had all these papers that we had just went through, and we got in an argument, and I was tossed out of the house, so I wasn't able to get any of them.
What do you want from me?
I don't know, ma'am.
How many pounds do you think these packages weighed?
They were up to 60.
What do you mean up to 60? You mean from 0 to 60?
Yes.
From 0 to 60?
Yes.
Because I read that in your answer. You said I sent him packages 4 times. Each one was 60 pounds. I said, what the hell? They sent him 60 pounds. They allow prisoners to get 60-pound packages right full of candy? Are they trying to kill him?
It's 30,
Listen,
Your Honor.
What?
It's 30 pounds. It's not 60.
How many pounds of candy did he send you?
2 pounds of candy, maybe been in there was coffee, a CD player. This was one-time shot, though. That was it. But I would never say, because of that one single package, that this thing is forgotten about. I asked him to come visit me. He never did. He promised to come down, didn't. I'm a little disappointed. You know, this is my son who, I know his mother and I were divorced when he was 10, but I sent him things all the time.
Oh, Mr. Lake, I wouldn't go there if I were you, sir. I just have a feeling that I wouldn't go there, that you were Father of the Year.
No, definitely not the best father in the year, that's a fact. But
I wouldn't go there, probably. Can I see proof with regard to this loan that you made him? I need your withdrawal for $6,500.
I don't have the withdrawal form.
Well, let me tell you this, Mr. Lake. I think that if you made this loan to your son, that this loan was not forgiven. However, I am not awarding you a judgment until I have received proof from you that you withdrew $6,500 from your bank. Do I make myself clear?
Absolutely.
That's the judgment of the court. Judgment for the plaintiff. You owe your father the money with that proviso. Thank you very much. Step out.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of 48 versus Cratterville, step forward, please.
22-year-old mechanic Timothy Fournier is suing his former live-in girlfriend, 18-year-old Laura Cratterville, for rent and for damage to his property. Laura claims she paid her rent in cash.
Mr. Fournier, the defendant was your girlfriend. You lived together for a while. It is your claim she owes you some money for rent and property that you claim she destroyed of yours. The defendant says that she gave you money every week and that whatever property she had of yours she returned after she received a telephone call from the police. When did you and the defendant move in together? And what kind of property?
We moved into an apartment on September 1st.
In whose name was the lease?
Both of ours.
Have a copy of the lease?
Yes, I do.
Can I see it, please? Mr. Fournier, does your hand always shake, or do I make you a little nervous?
A little both.
No, I just make you nervous. Don't be nervous. It's a Tuesday. I don't do anything really bizarre to litigants until Friday.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I had a very big loan on a truck. What happened is it was taken and burnt.
Your Honor, that's not true. He took it.
You pled guilty to burning the truck?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Timothy Fournier says his ex-girlfriend Laura Crateville owes for rent and for breaking his PlayStation 2.
All right, so tell me how much money she owes you and from what?
I have her owing half the security deposit and the first and second month's rent that she had never paid me for. And that came up to...
Well, did you get the security deposit back?
No, because of the damages that she had made to the house.
Did you pay any of the rent?
Your Honor, the agreement was I'd give him $100 a week, and from the date we moved in until the date we left, I had given him $100 every week except the last week I gave him $60.
Is that right?
No.
Well, how much did she give you?
$15, $20 here for the odds and ends.
Well, did you keep a record of what she gave you?
Of what she gave me? No.
Well, how am I supposed to figure that out, Mr. Fournier?
I have no idea. But I
Me neither.
But I did not...
Me neither. When two children want to play house and then it doesn't work out, you come into court and you say, here, this is my problem, you figure it out. Well, that's not the way responsible people behave. Did you keep a record?
No, Your Honor.
When did you separate?
The day we moved out, on November 15th.
Tell me about it.
We had gotten to an argument that spawned from an online, me talking online about certain people, and then it spawned into like this big giant argument where insults were thrown back and forth till finally we had decided to break up.
Okay.
And I was planning on leaving, so I called my mother so I could pick up my brother's truck. When I went down there to get my brother's truck, and my dad had met me to help me move all my stuff out. When I got there, the house had been ransacked and the door was left wide open.
Can I see it, please?
The door was not open, and the house was not destroyed, except from what he had taken with him.
And that's what the apartment looked like when we had got back.
You made a mess, madam.
Your Honor,
yes, you did.
The house was a mess before
Oh,
we even
no, no, no,
broke
no,
up.
no, 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 no. You made a mess. You made a mess. Absolutely. What? It looks like all her clothes.
A lot of things would look like they're ransacked and thrown around the house.
That's
like
the way
just-
the house always looked.
No.
No,
it's
it
always
really
looked
did.
like that. No,
We
no,
did-
no.
we
No,
did-
no, no.
That's the bedroom. We didn't have anything in there but clothes. We didn't have a bed. We didn't have nothing.
Nobody
It was-
lives like nobody lives like this.
We did,
except maybe a
unfortunately.
14-year-old.
We really did.
Well, you should have been neater.
Should have been.
Okay. How did you get out of this lease? I'm curious.
She had signed herself off the lease, so what I had done is I was claiming bankruptcy, so I added that to my bankruptcy.
Why were you claiming bankruptcy?
I put myself into a lot of debt.
How old are you?
22.
How did you put yourself in so much debt that at your age you have to declare a bankruptcy?
I was charged with burning my truck and attempting to fraud. So then when I pled out, I couldn't claim it. So
You're going to have to be more specific with me, sir. You're being very circumspect.
I had a very big loan on a truck, and then what happened is it was taken and burnt. And
Your Honor, that's not true. He took it.
You had a truck that was on a lease,
yes,
and you owed a lot of money on it,
yes,
and it broke down.
no, it was crashed and burned.
You were charged with it, and you pled guilty to burning the truck?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Okay. And then you had to make restitution
Yes.
for the truck. And how much did you owe?
I owed 18 on the truck, 18,000.
So you stuck the leasing company with $18,000.
Well, yeah, I mean, I claimed
What do you mean, well,
bankruptcy.
yeah?
I mean, they came after me and I went bankrupt.
What do you think? You think somebody comes down and gives the leasing company $18,000? When you declare bankruptcy, if you own somebody a debt and you declare bankruptcy, what that means is that they're now stuck with a truck that you burned.
Yeah.
Who advised you to do that? Your father? You didn't advise him to do that, did you?
Nope.
I should hope not. So what you're telling me, sir, is what you did was you decided to lump the whole thing together. That when you declared bankruptcy for this truck, you also lumped together the broken lease.
Yeah.
And you expect sympathy from me, is what I'm asking you.
No, I'm not expecting sympathy.
Ah, perfect. Good. All right. So what property do you claim she took or destroyed?
She had taken my PlayStation 2 that night.
Good. Now, she says in her answer that she returned it to you.
She did, but it came back broken.
Where did you get the PlayStation 2 from?
Sears.
And you put it on your credit card?
Yes.
You declare bankruptcy on that credit card, too?
Yes.
Get out of here. Is he playing with a full deck?
Yes.
Does he not understand a concept of morality?
Yes, he does.
Well, it's not evident here, sir. He took advantage of Sears by lumping them into his bankruptcy rather than paying off the credit card. And now you're suing her because you want the money. I assume if I give you the money for the PlayStation that you broke, you're going to give it to Sears, right?
No.
Get out of here. Oh, goodbye. Have a happy life. Dad, you got a lot of work to do. He's 22. Maybe still salvageable. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out. That's case number 437 on the calendar in the matter of Mohajer versus Ramos. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir.
Mr. Mohajer, according to your complaint, sir, you and the defendant had a relationship and have a child together.
Yes, Your Honor.
And while you were together several years ago, Ms. Ramos didn't have sufficient credit to secure a credit card in her own name. You agreed to get one for her, and the condition was that she would make the payments on the card. You and the defendant were living together at the time, and when you broke up, she stopped making payments on the credit card, leaving you a balance of almost $2,000. You want her to make those payments.
Yes.
Plus, you have a complaint against her for harassment, which I will give you about 30 seconds to talk to me about. Ms. Ramos says that she spent a fortune of money on daycare for your son, that you finally were ordered to pay child support. She hasn't seen any child support from you since the order was made in November. That's her defense. When did you live together? From when to when?
As of December 2002, all the way till July of 2004.
And when was your son born?
December 2002, on the 30th.
And when did you get this credit card?
Back of August 2003.
And from August of 2003 until you separated in July of 2004, who paid for that credit card?
She did.
Solely?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
When did you stop making payments on the card, Ms. Ramos?
I stopped making payments after August 10th was my last payment.
Why?
I don't owe him anything anymore. We're not together anymore, and I've paid over $9,000 in daycare. He has not helped me out in any way with my son, even when we lived together.
Well, Ms. Ramos, you originally had an agreement with him, and your agreement with him provided that if he got you a credit card, you would make the payments. Because you had made the payments, according to you. You'd made the payments until August of 2004. That's what you said.
I never asked him to apply for the credit card.
That's not the issue.
He was never helping out. He said, I got this card for you. Since I can't help you out with groceries or clothes or anything else, we'll use the credit card and we'll pay half and half every month. That was the agreement. I did not ask him to apply for the card.
So is what you're telling me that you were each paying on this credit card?
No, I ended up paying it because he's this car salesman and he never made enough money. He only had enough money to pay for his new boat. He didn't make that much money.
Who did you live with?
We lived with him and his father and his aunt. And
so you lived in his home?
Yes, with his family.
Who paid rent?
Often he would pay $500 a month to his father, but he didn't pay every month.
Your Honor, I have text stubs showing it.
Just a second. Making excuses, Ms. Ramos. If you made payments on this credit card from the time you got it in 2003 until August of 2004, then that supports the plaintiff's statement that you agreed to make payments on this credit card.
The charges on the credit card were purchases that were made for myself, for him, and my son. All the stuff was stuff for the three of us. That was when we were together, and now that we're not together, I don't see how he can come back and sue me for stuff.
Let me see the bills on the credit card, please. While you were living with the plaintiff, what other household expenses did you pay for?
I got the groceries.
Okay.
And the clothes for my son, and the bottles, and the formula, and all
Okay.
that stuff on the credit card, and I paid it every month.
Okay.
I paid for daycare.
Just a minute. What are these charges for American Furniture Mart in Dallas, 363? What is that?
That was furniture when I needed to move out from his home. I had to buy furniture for my new apartment with me and my son.
So you expect him to pay for that?
I actually made a payment after that on August 10th for $400 to cover that.
Well, that doesn't cover the $306 and $363.
What's the other one?
Supercenter.
Groceries and stuff for our new apartment. I had to get out. It was a very bad situation.
Well, that doesn't mean he pays for it. That's what happens when you're not married. Bad situation, you have to move out.
I would trade in to pay $500 a month any day over paying the daycare, the bills, the grocery, and all that stuff.
Listen, Miss Ramos, you went to family court to get an order of support?
Yes, we did.
And you've gotten an order of support. An order of support was made by the family court in November. Have you paid that award?
Yes, I have indication letter here showing my child support that I paid. Her lawyer failed to get an account number
May I see it, please?
set up, so the checks that I sent were sent back. And I had to beg and plead with my lawyer to get a hold of her lawyer, but her lawyer would refuse to contact us back. So I finally received a letter on January the 8th showing that finally they set up an account number. And the checks were mailed out actually about a week ago.
Your Honor, I have where they now are going to garnish his wages because he has not made those payments.
And she'll be receiving those, they said, within the end of the week, if not first of the next week.
I believe he sent them. I believe he sent
And
them.
I also have where he enrolled his son in the daycare where he's currently at and has not helped pay for it at all.
I have check deposits showing that I made a deposit when he was enrolled, Your Honor.
A deposit of $200, but I pay $800 a month, every month. It's come out of my account.
Just a second.
And I have the Chase account.
Listen to me. Miss Ramos, when you were together, who made more money?
I did.
You are going to pay more money for support for this child than he is if you make more money than he does. That's no question about that. That's just the way things are. But you had an agreement with him. And your agreement with him, based upon the evidence, based upon the course of conduct, was you were going to pay this credit card, and you used it as if it were your own. And I can tell you that because after you left, you continued to use this credit card for things that you needed.
For me and my son. Mm-hmm.
Well, he's not responsible for you. He's not your husband. You chose to have a child
I don't
with him.
deny that I didn't make the charges. I know that I made the charges.
Well, you made the charges, and you made the charges at a time.
He owes me more than I owe him
Then
as
you
far
have
as
to sue.
daycare.
Then you have to sue it. No. Listen to me.
He enrolled him in the
raised
daycare. Let me show you the enrollment.
No, Miss Ramos, you're not following me. Miss Ramos, the court made an order of support. The order of support was what the court believed was consistent with your individual income and the needs of the child. You have a right to appeal that judgment if you like, but what you cannot do is resort to self-help and say, well, I didn't get what I wanted in the child support hearing, therefore I'm not going to pay this credit card anymore, when you made an agreement with him to pay the credit card and you used the credit card as if it was your own. And you did use the credit card as if it was your own because you used it after you moved out of his home to buy things for your new home.
But it's not $1,700 in charges. The other charges were stuff when we were together and stuff for the three of us.
And what I'm telling
the agreement was we were both going to pay for that stuff.
No, and I don't believe that. I believe that he paid for certain things. Now, I'm speaking. Hey, I'm speaking. I believe that he paid for certain things in the house, and you paid for certain things in the house. He paid the rent, and I assume he paid other fixed expenses, and you paid for food, and you paid for clothing for the child, and you paid for the daycare.
So he's paid nothing for his son.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,800. That's all. I see I'm not getting to you. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think he's very jealous. We just separated, and now that I've moved on, I've gotten married.
She's a teacher. She's teaching fellow kids out there this kind of responsibility. It's kind of sad.
He hasn't helped at all.
The only reason she left because I gave him too much attention. They didn't give her enough attention.
It's like super dad, you know? He gets all the benefits of being a father. He gets to see him half the time, and then doesn't have to pay a dime. Let's be nice.
27-year-old designer Rachel Cook is suing ex-boyfriend, car customizer Dan Mock, for household items they purchased over the 4 years they lived together.
Yeah, this is case number 367 on the calendar, the matter of Cook versus Mock. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Ms. Cook, it is your claim that the defendant kept some property that is rightfully yours after you broke up. You were in a long-term relationship, about 4 years, and lived together for all that time?
Correct.
Mr. Mock says you got whatever you're going to get.
Yes.
So, when did you move in together and when did you leave?
We got together August 7th, 1999.
And when did you separate?
We broke up September 17th. I moved out October 1st.
What arrangements did you make with Mr. Mock about the division of property?
Well, him and my brother both loaded the items that we discussed as I was loading the truck that he said that I could have. I had taken one of the dressers and two of the nightstands for the bedroom set, and that was fine. And he said that, you know, his stuff was still in the one dresser, and that, you know, as soon as he replaced it, he would deliver that item to my mother's house. The steamer and the vacuum cleaner, he wanted to clean the carpets and stuff before I took those. There was a blow-up pool for my son, and then also...
Did you have a child living with you?
Correct.
But this was not the child of this relationship?
No.
How old is your son?
My son's 8 years old.
What items did you take with you?
I got one of the freezers, the washer and dryer. He said it wasn't a problem to take the washer and dryer. He was just going to replace them anyways.
Don't tell me. You're editorializing.
Sorry.
You got a freezer? Had you bought that freezer?
The freezer was given to us by his ex-sister-in-law.
Okay. So the answer is you did not buy the freezer?
No.
Did you buy the washer and dryer?
I bought the washer. The dryer was his brother's.
What else did you take?
As far as furniture?
Bedroom furniture. Who purchased it?
We purchased it together.
So you both paid for it?
Correct.
Is that right?
I paid for it.
All the furniture, all the bedroom furniture?
Yes.
Is that right?
No, that's incorrect. Both our money went into a joint account for the 4 years that we were together. We opened an account in March of 2000.
And you were employed?
Correct. I haven't been employed other than 3 weeks the entire time we've been together.
So when you say that you paid for it by check?
I actually paid for it by cash. What I would typically do would be to deposit a certain amount of my check into the joint account, and then I would keep a certain amount for myself or whatever.
For cash?
For cash.
Well, that's okay. That's the way you set up your finances, so that you didn't pay for it. It was paid for from joint money. Okay. What is it that you want now?
All I want is the items that on the day that I moved out and we loaded the truck, we discussed the electric skillet, and we purchased off eBay that had not arrived yet.
Do you have a list of those things?
Yes, I do.
Let me see it, please.
They are right there.
Ms. Cook, don't be nervous. I only eat litigants on Thursday.
Sorry.
She wants a vanity-style dresser. Do you have that?
That is, yes, the dresser part of that bedroom set.
Okay. You have any problem giving her that?
Yes.
Why?
Out of the bedroom, I've kept that dresser. She's taken the bed, she's taken the nightstand, she's
so you want the dresser?
Oh, yeah, I would like to at least have a dresser.
You can have it. It's yours. It's his. You took the bed, you took the other dresser, now he's got that. That's it. Period. Listen, when two people are married and they live together, they have courts to decide about the division of property. Correct. When two people decide to live together and do a test run, we don't have courts for test runs. You two people put money in a joint bank account, which means that all the things that were purchased, according to you, correct, except the stuff that was given by his family, was purchased from the joint account. You took most of the bedroom furniture. He wants the dresser. He's got it. I'm the judge. Period. End of discussion. Over. Don't respond. Next. Steam cleaner.
The steam cleaner at the beginning of summer, I had given her the money to go to town to buy.
Don't tell me you gave her the money. So you both put money in the joint account. It's not your money. Did you tell her that she could have the steam cleaner?
No.
Okay.
Vacuum? I'd like to interject. My mother was there the day that he said that he would deliver all these items to my mother's house. My brother called.
He changed his mind.
But the day that he was serving papers.
In order to have a contract, you have to have an offer and acceptance, and there has to be some consideration. What was the consideration for him giving you all the property?
I didn't ask for any of the vehicles that were purchased. I didn't ask for reimbursement for any of the money for his mortgage payments. I didn't ask for reimbursement.
You don't get, let me explain something. You don't get reimbursement for money for his mortgage payments because you and your child were living there.
What about the $1,100 that's still owed on my mother's Lowe's account for items that are permanently part of that house? I couldn't take my garden window.
Let me explain something to you, my dear. You do not invest money in a home unless you're married.
Oh, I know that now.
Well, if you watched regularly, you would have known it before. You do not invest money in a house.
I thought that when he said that he would do something, that he was actually maybe for the first time going to do it.
Okay. Did you purchase an electric skillet on your account?
Yes.
Who paid for it?
I did.
Show me. Prove it.
I cannot prove it.
That's too bad. She gets the skillet. $400.
How much, ma'am?
skillet? How much was the skillet?
This is the actual payment. We purchased it on eBay. This is the replacement
Just a second,
cost.
who's we? I thought you said you purchased it.
I purchased it. I paid for it. I purchased the...
From where did you get the money?
We bought it off eBay.
Not we. Where did you get the money?
eBay.
Where did you get the money?
I paid for it out of my paycheck after we split up.
Well, show me.
It's right there.
Okay, good. Is this what you showed me, $36?
Yes, but the replacement cost, I want the skillet.
It was purchased on September 8th. This was before you broke up.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. I guess that I had that date wrong. But it was, I went in and paid for it.
I mean, it's sort of interesting that you say that the skillet is worth $400 and you
That's
paid...
the replacement cost if I were to have to go buy it.
Oh, well, you don't get that, madam.
I want the skillet.
But you don't get that. You were living together. Correct. I told you, you have a problem. Your problem is things that were purchased from a joint account. Okay. Courts don't do that anymore. I mean, if I'm looking at any item here that looks as if, for instance, I have a small child's desk. Whose is that?
That is hers.
Where is it?
It is at her house.
No, it is not.
Her brother returned it for me.
You're the brother?
Who is that?
Step up.
Yes,
You're Miss Cook's brother?
yes, I am.
You brought the child's desk where?
Over to where she is living at her mother's house. It is sitting on the front porch.
You don't get along with your sister, I assume?
No, not really.
Okay, what about an inflatable swimming pool?
The inflatable swimming pool. I'm sorry, ma'am, for laughing. It is at my house. It is in the garbage trailer. It was a $15.
It was $30.
Okay, it was a $30 inflatable pool that sat out in the sun all summer.
Well, if she wants to come over and get it, leave it out 5 days from today. If she wants to come and pick it up, she's going to pick it up.
Gladly.
Okay?
Yes.
Because that you don't sit in that, do you?
No.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You're being petty. I don't know why.
It's items that he said I could have. And he said in front of my mother that I could have, and the day they were served, the day we're going to deliver.
And later today,
The two of you believe that Mr. Gelhar owes you for mental distress. And Mr. Gelhar says that you aggravated him into an ulcer. Everybody's in Never Never Land here.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Rachel Cook claims former lover Dan Mock will not return her things. Dan says she should move on with her life.
Miss Cook, my sense is that you're being pretty petty. Most of these things are not worth a lot of money. They have no sentimental value.
They do to me.
No, a swimming pool that you bought for $30 that is plastic doesn't have sentimental value.
No, but when we didn't have it, when we unloaded, my son cried. He wanted his desk, he wanted certain items.
Miss Cook, I can't tell you that you don't have the desk. Your brother says that the desk is on the porch in your house.
It was not there when we left.
Check again. My sense is that Mr. Mock is not lying to me. It seems to me that when you left, you took an awful lot of stuff with you. You loaded it in a truck.
But
You want more?
I paid for stuff into that house as well. And I feel that
Your problem is you feel as if because you invested money in a house that was not yours, that you can't take out of the house, you should be able to get the things that you can take out of the house.
But I didn't take everything that you can take out of there. I didn't take the desk. I told him he could have the computer desk that I paid for. Good. I didn't take the surround sound system, which, great, I have a big screen TV that he was kind enough to let me have that has no internal speaker. So without a sound system, it's pretty much worthless.
You mean you can't watch television on it?
You can watch television on it, but you can't hear it.
Well, you go get a little speaker and plug it in.
But I mean, that's the thing. I didn't take, we had two
You're being
surround
petty.
systems.
I don't know why, but this stuff here that you have here is nonsense. I mean, it's really nonsense.
But it's items that he said I could have. And he said in front of my mother that I could have, and the day they were served, they were going to deliver.
Listen to me. I'm not listening to your mother.
Okay.
Is there anything on her wish list that you feel as if you can part with?
Ma'am.
Just to answer my question,
No,
sir. Nothing. It's all important to you.
Yes, ma'am.
It's all important to you. It's the only vacuum cleaner in your house.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
No, there's one out in the storage unit.
Is there another vacuum cleaner in the storage unit?
There may be. If there is, she's welcome.
And he has a new
Just
dresser.
shh. So you would have no objection to going to look and seeing if there is another vacuum cleaner that you might want to give her?
Yes, ma'am.
So I want you to do that. If you find it, you put it on the curb with the swimming pool.
Will do.
Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Have a happy life. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
The real reason we were here was because I have a new girlfriend.
If he feels that I'm being petty and jealous over his convicted felon girlfriend, I'm really sorry, but she's not half the woman I am.
She's angry. She's upset.
He cheated on me, whether he wants to feel that he cheated on me or not.
She just can't. She can't let go.
I still love him. But you know what? I'm not in love with him. As far as I'm concerned, he is worse than scum.
She's just one of those people that is just never going to let go until she finally finds someone and moves on with her life.
I am back together with somebody extremely important in my life.
That's what she needs.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Conger versus Tates, step forward, please.
Plaintiffs Chuck and Karen Conger are suing the father of their grandchild, roofer Jeremiah Tates, for the cost to fix a '97 Ford Escort. The Congers claim Jeremiah's driving caused the transmission to blow.
Mrs. Conger, you have a daughter whose name is Brenda. Correct. Let me guess, Brenda.
Yes.
Your stepdaughter.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is a convoluted story of a car, a 1997 car, that was purchased for your daughter and the defendant, her then boyfriend and father of the two children. And the arrangement was that the two of them would pay you back for the car.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then they had an off-again, on-again kind of arrangement. And at some point, Mr. Tates took the car with your daughter's permission because she got a new car.
Mm-hmm.
And he was driving the car and making the payments.
Yep.
And then the engine blew on the car, and he had the car towed to your house, and he said, I'm not making payments on it anymore. So you want him to pay for the repairs that you did to the car in order to get it up and running because you still have the car.
Correct.
That's really what the lawsuit is about. You want him to pay for the repairs.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Tate says, I only drove the car for a couple of months. Brenda has always driven that car, right?
Correct.
So why are you looking to me to pay for the repairs? So, the car was purchased when?
Go ahead. I'm not sure when Brenda purchased the car.
Brenda, step up. When did you buy the car, Brenda?
The car was purchased, I want to say, in 2001.
Okay. And it was purchased in your name?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it still in your name?
No, ma'am.
Whose name is it in?
It is now in my mother and stepfather's name.
And who drove the car in 2001?
I did all the driving. Jeremiah did not have his
Okay.
license.
You did the driving in 2001. Who did the driving of this particular car in 2002?
I did.
Who did the driving of this car in 2003?
I did half of it, and then Jeremiah took over.
Okay. Now, when did Jeremiah take over the car?
October to May. To May of both.
May of 2004. How did he come to have possession of the car?
We were trying to work on things, and we just couldn't do it. So when I left, I also had another automobile. Jeremiah had his...
Just a second. When you left, what do you mean you had another automobile?
Oh, I'm sorry. When Jeremiah and I separated, I took my income taxes and I purchased a SUV. So for him to have transportation for his work, he also goes to a school and he has children. We just talked about it, and he was going to take that so he would have transportation for those needs.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. But the Explorer she had was paid off with the taxes she got back from our two kids, claiming our two kids. So, I mean...
Did you support them?
Yes, I did.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Why did you claim them both that year?
He was the sole supporter of the family. I did not work. I went to school and I took care of the children. And when we separated, we were not on talking terms. I needed money. I needed to take care of my children and get a roof over our head.
So you claimed the children as your deduction?
Yes, ma'am.
Even though he supported them?
Yes, because when he claims taxes, he is paying the IRS right now, so he would not have received anything. I tried talking to him about it, but at that time we were not.
What do you mean he's paying the IRS?
He has back taxes. He used to own his own business, so he's doing
Okay,
stuff
so
like
you
that.
wouldn't have gotten the money anyway, but
No.
at least she got the advantage of it. Is that what you're telling me?
Yep, basically, Your Honor.
Okay, and how much of an advantage did you get?
Not much. I think my return was only $3,100.
$3,100.
Yes,
And you
ma'am.
got $3,100, and you actually did not support the children. He did that year.
Yes.
Fine. Who's driving the car now?
My daughter is.
Which daughter?
I have a daughter. She's 16 years old. Her name is Brianna, and she's making payments on the car because we still owe money on the car.
Great. How much do you still owe?
A couple $1,000.
I don't think he's responsible to fix the car.
We have 6 months of where he's made payments on this car faithfully.
That's absolutely right. He made payments 6 months faithfully. The car was not in his name. It's in your name. You chose to take the car, and instead of fixing it and selling it, you chose to give it to your daughter. That's what you chose to do.
We just thought that he's the one that was driving it at the time, so we thought that he should be held responsible for...
No, not necessarily. The engine could have blown when your daughter was driving the car. She drove the car for 3 years. Cut your losses.
Well, he made payments on this car with faith, and if he would have taken out a loan, he would have had this car then.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
May I?
Shoulda, woulda, coulda. You also could have fixed the car and sold it.
I understand your view on I was the one driving, but I was the only one with the legal license.
What?
Well, if he would have had a license, his driving would have been just as much. So the problem, okay.
Madam, you want to also explain the $3,100 that should have actually gone to the federal government and went to your pocket instead?
I also worked.
Oh, that's a lot of baloney.
No,
you said to me a moment ago that he was the sole support of the children the year that you claimed the children on your tax returns, and you did it because you knew that if he claimed the children, he would not be getting a refund because he owed for back taxes. So you claimed the refund. You needed money to buy a new car, which you took $3,100. You bought a new car. You gave him that one. Good. Leave him alone. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Krezakowski versus Suggs. Step forward, please.
United States Marine Joseph Krezakowski is suing his ex-girlfriend, 26-year-old lease administrator Amy Suggs, for her share of a credit card debt.
Mr. Krezakowski, you claim that the defendant, who is your former girlfriend, owes you for some credit card debt.
Yes, ma'am.
The defendant says that, yes, in fact, she did agree to pay half of the credit card debt that the two of you had accumulated while you were together, but then she had second thoughts about it after she made some payments, and she feels as if she should not have to pay that because she was sort of pressured into making the agreement. Is that your defense?
Not exactly.
Well, what's your defense?
There were extenuating circumstances when we separated, and I feel like I was taken advantage of in the situation. Not necessarily that I just decided I didn't want to make payments anymore.
Well, let's start with the fact that the two of you lived together.
Yes.
And that you had this credit card that had built up how much in debt, sir?
When we separated, it was at $6,500 and some change, ma'am.
And you agreed to split that debt in half?
Yes, ma'am, we
did. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you separated when?
About the 20th of July of 2002, ma'am, or of January.
20th of January?
Yes, ma'am.
And you did make payments up until March of 2003?
Correct.
And then stopped?
Right.
Okay, now explain why.
When we separated, I was in a situation where I was in North Carolina with my son, an 8-year-old, by myself. Joe had made reference several times to being in relationships before where everything had been taken away from him. I needed to get out of the relationship, and I was concerned that when we separated, it wouldn't be as easy as I wanted it to be. Not only was I alone in North Carolina, but I had no friends there to help me in my situation. When the discussion came up about us separating, I agreed not to take anything with me that he would have to replace, and I agreed to pay half of the credit card.
What do you mean you agreed not to take anything that he would have to replace?
Well,
what did you take with you?
I took my son's bedroom furniture, my personal belongings, my clothing, some extra dishes.
You took dishes? Go ahead. What else?
And I believe I took a hope chest, a cedar hope chest.
Anything else that you took, sir?
She took the computer and also a china hutch for the kitchen.
Does that sound familiar?
Yes, yes.
You left the computer out, and you left the china hutch out, right?
Right.
Was the computer purchased on the credit card?
It was purchased on a totally separate credit card that was already paid off by this time, ma'am.
Was anything that was taken by the defendant items that had been purchased on the credit card?
No, ma'am. Basically, the credit card was used for both our children's Christmas and birthdays and things for around the house.
Okay. You haven't convinced me so far, Miss Suggs. All I hear is a lot of excuses. You want to take one last shot?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
When we separated, majority of our furniture that we had accumulated together, we either brought into a relationship or bought while we were together. He kept all of it. I don't have anything to show for that. A few measly pieces of furniture.
Did you ask for anything else?
I wanted more things, but I wasn't in a position to ask because I was by myself. I didn't know how he would react, how he would respond.
Well, then you didn't ask for it. Then you took whatever you said you wanted.
Not only did I have to refurnish an entire apartment, I've paid him $1,300, in addition to the fact that at the time we separated, he was making probably twice as much as I was.
All of those are excuses. You were living together as a family. You had a child. Did you have children?
I have a son from a previous marriage that doesn't live with me, but he'd come and visit, ma'am.
Your son would come and visit, and your child lived with you. So you had this credit card that was used for your family. He agreed to pay for half. You agreed to pay for half. And I was right when I said later on, after you made some payments, you had second thoughts.
No, I didn't have second thoughts. All along, I felt like I had been taken advantage of.
You made the deal. Live by it. Stop being a crybaby. You made the deal. That's the deal. Stop having second thoughts about it. How come you didn't have second thoughts and say, you know, I really should give him the entire amount? How come it's always, I have second thoughts, I don't think I'm going to give him anything?
Because I didn't trust that he would leave me alone. I gave him all
that's
the furniture
unfortunate,
and
madam. You haven't told me any reason why you didn't trust him. Because he had another bad relationship where he ended up on the short end of the stick financially? That was your reason? Miss Suggs, be a grown-up. You made the deal. You live by it. The check will be drawn to the card company, which will clear your credit, sir, of $2,481.65. That's all.
Yeah, this is case number 219 on the calendar in the matter of Davis versus Demonkowski. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
What kind of work do you do, sir?
I'm a journeyman carpenter.
According to your complaint, you and the defendant had dated. He got himself arrested for falling behind in his child support. You agreed to bail him out. The bail was $1,100. I don't know if that was the bail or what he owed him back child support. What was it?
It was what was owed.
So she gave you the money to support your child?
Yes.
How old is your child?
She is 7.
Does she live with you?
No, she lives with her parent, or her other parent.
So you paid his portion of his child support so that he could get out of jail, $1,100, with the following arrangement. And the arrangement was that since he didn't have money, he was going to fix your father's roof.
Yes.
Is that right?
That was the agreement, yes, after I got out of jail.
And once you got out of jail, you did not fix her father's roof. And you have what you consider the perfect defense for why you didn't fulfill your end of your obligation. So, sir, Officer Bird and I are all ears.
All right. The main reason why I'm not going to pay her back now, or didn't think that I owed her any money.
Listen, I want you to start this way so that you really don't irritate me. The reason that I believe I have a legitimate defense,
All right.
not the reason I'm not going to pay it back now or never.
All right. The reason I do not believe I need to owe her this amount of money is I get laid off every winter. Well, unemployment only pays a percentage of my child support, so...
Listen to me. Because you're in construction and things got slow and you got laid off, there are other kinds of jobs that you can do if you have a 7-year-old child that you have to support, other than collecting unemployment. You can wait tables, you can wash dishes, you can collect cans. There are a lot of other things that you do. So I have no sympathy for you.
Well,
so get to your defense.
Okay, my defense is afterwards she ended up going out, unbeknownst to me, she found out where my ex-wife lived. And me and my ex-wife, we had a vehicle that was purchased with us together for me to ride back and forth to work when we were married. Well, my ex-wife made an arrangement with me to sign it over into my name, and I was driving it back and forth to work, getting ready to assume payments. Well, before even a month went by, Michelle, she ended up filing a suit against me.
On what date did she bail you out? Did she pay your child?
I don't remember the exact date.
What month?
May 12th.
And on what date did you start to work on her father's roof?
I haven't yet because I was trying to...
And on what date did you file this lawsuit?
I believe it was July 3rd.
So between May 12th, when you got out of jail, and July 3rd, you hadn't started working on her father's roof?
No, because I was working at my job.
Who cares?
She made it an explicit comment, don't worry about it, do it when you have time. Exact words out of her mouth.
I still don't hear it. Do you hear a defense anywhere?
Well, inadvertently, she ended up making me lose this vehicle, so I ended up missing 8 days of work.
How did she cause you to lose the vehicle?
She went to my ex-wife's house, and my ex-wife became furious, took the vehicle back, and just decided to sell it or do whatever. I have documentation from my boss.
Who cares whether you lost 8 days of work? I don't care whether you should. If you lost 8 days of work, you should have done her father's roof. Then you fulfill your
No
obligation.
vehicle means no transportation to go do a job.
Let me ask you this question, sir. Are you telling me that you stayed in your house for 8 days? You had enough food and water and sustenance, you didn't go out of your house?
Well, pretty much, yeah. I had no vehicle to go nowhere, so that means I did not go anywhere.
Did you call her father and say, I don't have a car, come and pick me up, and I'll come over and do your roof all day?
No, I only talked to Michelle.
You know, you have an excuse for everything. You have an excuse for why you didn't pay child support. You have an excuse for why you didn't fulfill your obligation pursuant to your agreement with her. You have an excuse why you can't get out of bed in the morning.
I get up 4:30 every morning and go to work.
Then if you went to work at your other job, and if you didn't want to go and fix her father's roof, you give her back her $1,100. Let me put it to you this way, sir. Between 5/12 and 7/3, if you didn't go and fix her father's roof, how much did you pay her back each week of the $1,100?
0.
You got my drift.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Now, you talked about an ex-wife, sir. Is that the person who was the mother of your 7-year-old?
No, she is not.
Do you have a child with that person?
No, I do not.
And that's your only child, I
That is
assume?
my only child.
Thank God for small favors.
And later today,
You say that you loaned a cosmetics case to the defendant. It was yours. She won't return it. She says it's her case. And Bird really cares about this.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Michelle Davis says when ex-boyfriend Charles Diemenkowski was arrested for unpaid child support, she helped him out and paid off the debt.
Now listen to me. You know what your problem is? The problem is you made a stupid deal. I wouldn't want him fixing my roof.
I don't want him to fix it.
Well, I know you don't want to, but that was the agreement you made.
Right, because...
Miss Davis, that was the agreement that you made with him. That was very dumb.
I know.
So I have to be able to look at the facts here and say, do I have confidence that if I direct this man to fulfill his obligation to do your father's roof pursuant to your agreement that he's going to do it? And am I going to stand over him with a whip to make sure he does it? The answer is, I'm not going to do that. So I have to find some balance. I have to find some way of making you whole because he's full of baloney. Right? He's got every excuse under the sun. He's a user. Now, you talked about an ex-wife, sir. Is that the person who was the mother of your 7-year-old?
No, she is not.
Do you have a child with that person?
No, I do not.
And that's your only child, I
That
assume.
is my only child.
Thank God for small favors. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,100. I wouldn't let him fix my roof. That's all.
Parties are excused and they step out.
He told me not to call him anymore, and his roommate threatened me.
She only went out for one reason, to go be vindictive to my ex-wife.
This is his ex-wife, and we're friends, and I didn't cause a problem.
She never met my ex-wife before this, ever.
I think he's a user.
Hopefully never see him again, big black wall, that'll be fine.
Just be careful who you trust.
2005 সালে 8 আগস্ট অনুষ্ঠিত হওয়া NWA এর 75তম বার্ষিকী শোতে ফেন অনিক্সাকে হারিয়ে দ্বিতীয়বারের মতন বার্ডস টাইনালের জিতে নেন। এই ম্যাচের পরেই তাকে NJPW ডোজোতেই ট্রেন করার প্রস্তাব দেওয়া হয় এবং ফেন তার বিনা সংকোচনায় গ্রহণ করে ফেলেছেন। তৎকালীন তার সময় তিনি ডব্লিউ টুর্নামেন্টে অংশগ্রহণ করেছিলেন। এই টুর্নামেন্টে তার প্রথম রাইডার মিকি অ্যালনকে হারিয়ে দ্বিতীয় রাউন্ডে ডেমিন বর্তমানে ড্যান্সি ব্রেইন এর বিপক্ষে ম্যাচ হেরে টুর্নামেন্টে হাতে বিদায় নেন। এই ম্যাচটিতেই ছিলেন ব্রেন ব্রোল্ডের মধ্যকার একমাত্র ম্যাচ NJPW ক্যারিয়ার। 2006 সালে ম্যাচে তিনি NJWP এর সাথে চুক্তিবদ্ধ হন। তখন তার রিং নেম ছিল প্রিন্স ডিবিটি। একটা সাক্ষাৎকারে তিনি উল্লেখ করেছিল জাপানিজরা তার আসল নাম ঠিকমতো উচ্চারণ করতে পারে না বলে তার নাম পরিবর্তন করে প্রিন্স ডিবিটি রাখা হয়েছিল। রুনির পক্ষে তিনি তার NJPW ডেবিট ম্যাচ খেলেছিলেন। প্রথম গিমিকি ছিল পিজাস কি ডাবল আই গিমি। উল্লেখ্য যে ধারণা গিমিকি হচ্ছে মার্কস টাইপের গিমিক। ছিলেন এই গিমিক অরিজিনাল প্রথম রেসলার। 2007 সালে তিনি মিনুরা এর সাথে প্রাইস প্রিন্স নামক একটি ট্যাগ টিম গঠন করে এবং 2008 সালে ফেব্রুয়ারিতে তার প্রথমবারের মতন আইডব্লিউজিপি জেনুইন হেভিওয়েট ট্যাগ টাইমলাইন জিতে যান। পরবর্তীতে তিনি টগোসির সাথে মিলে অ্যালপো 50 ট্যাগ টিম গঠন করেন। আরও 2009 সালে 5 জুলাই মটক সিটির গিমিন্সকে হারান এর সাথেই ফলে ক্যারিয়ারে দ্বিতীয়বারের মতন আইডব্লিউজিপি চ্যাম্পিয়নে জিতে যান। প্রিন্সি ডিবিটি যে কেবল তার ট্যাগ ক্যারিয়ারে দক্ষ দেখিয়েছেন তা নয়, এমনকি ইন্ডিভিজুয়াল ক্যারিয়ার ও নিজের প্রতিভার আলোক গাছের প্রতিফলিত করেছেন। যদিও ক্যারিয়ার এখনো কোনো 5 স্টার ম্যাচের উপহার দিতে পারেনি, তবে অনেক স্টার রেটিং ম্যাচে উপহার দিয়েছেন। কি ট্যাগ কম্বিনেশন, কি ইন্ডিভিজুয়াল ক্যারিয়ার, তাকে মোটামুটি সফল বলা চলে। কিন্তু তার ক্যারিয়ারের মূল আকর্ষণ ছিল ট্যাগ কম্বিনেশনের। এনজেপিডব্লিউ এর সবচেয়ে প্রতিযোগীর ক্ষেত্র হিসেবে বিবেচনা করা হয় এই সেক্টরে, যেখানে সব রাঘবদের পদচরণ আর সে সেক্টরে 6বার চ্যাম্পিয়ন হয়। কিন্তু চারটিখানি কথা নয়, যোগ্যতা না থাকলে কোনো রেসলার্স এ ডিসিশন স্টোরি লাইনে ফিউড ঢুকাতে পারবে না। সাথে সাথে অভিজ্ঞতা থাকা এটা একটা বড় ফ্যাক্ট। 2010 সালে 13ই জুনে তিনি কটা ইবুশিকে হারিয়ে বেস্ট অফ সুপার জুনিয়র এ টুর্নামেন্ট জিতে যান এবং আইডব্লিউপিজি জুনিয়রের হেভিওয়েট চ্যাম্পিয়ন ম্যাচ খেলার সুযোগ পেয়ে যান। টুর্নামেন্ট জেতার ঠিক 6 দিন পরেই ডোমিনোস 690 পিপিডিতে মারফুজিকে হারিয়ে তিনি প্রথমবারের মতো আইএমপিজি জুনিয়র হেভিওয়েট চ্যাম্পিয়ন টাইটেল জিতে যান। এটা এনজেপিডব্লিউতে তার জেতার প্রথম সিঙ্গেলস টাইটেল। 2010 সালে আগস্ট মাসে তিনি এনজেপিডব্লিউ এর সর্ববৃহৎ টুর্নামেন্ট G1 ক্লাইম্যাক্স এর অংশ করে টুর্নামেন্টের প্রথম রাউন্ডের 7 ম্যাচের মধ্যে 4টিতেই জয় পান তিনি। তবে একটু পরে খাবো। 2010 সালের আগস্টে বৃহত্তম অংশগ্রহণ করে টুর্নামেন্টের প্রথম রাউন্ডে 7টি ম্যাচের মধ্যে 4টিতেই তিনি জয়লাভ পান। তবে ব্লক পঞ্চম স্থান অধিকার করা তার প্রথম রাউন্ডটি বিদায় নিতে হয়। 2011 সাল নভেম্বর মাসে লৌকিকে হারিয়ে তিনি আবারও আইপি হেভিওয়েট চ্যাম্পিয়ন জিতে যান এবং এনজেপিডব্লিউ এর বৃহত্তম পিপিডি WK7 এর তিনি লোকি ও কোটো ব্লিসকে হারিয়ে তার টাইটেল রিটার্ন করেছিলেন। পিপিডিতে ডেভিড টনগা কে নিয়ে টান্সবেইসকে অ্যাটাক করেন, আর এদিকে ডেভিড গঠন করেন ব্লু ক্লাব, যা বর্তমানে প্রো রেসলিংসের সবচেয়ে জনপ্রিয় একটি স্টেবল। তিনি ব্লুজ ক্লাব নামে যে ট্যাগ টিম স্টেবল ছিলেন তা বর্তমানে ইরার অন্যতম জনপ্রিয় কোয়ালিটির সম্পন্ন উপযুক্ত কম্বিনেশন বেসিক স্টেবল, যা জনপ্রিয় এবং সুনাম সুদর্শন সূর্যোদয়ের দেশ জাপানে ছড়িয়ে অন্যান্য দেশের কো রেসলিং ফ্যানদের মাঝেও ছড়িয়ে পড়েছেন। এমনকি এটা এরকম জনপ্রিয় ছিল যে আমেরিকান WWE এর স্টেবল প্রধান 2 লিডার তাদের কোম্পানিতে নিয়ে আসে এবং ব্লুইট ক্লাবের যত্ন এনজেপি থেকেই কিনে নেয়। শুধু তাই নয়, তারা নিজের প্রমোশন ও ব্লুইট ক্লাবকে রিবিল্ড করে। এই ক্লাবের অন্যতম সেরা মেম্বার ডিওসি এবং কে কার্লিকে নিয়ে আসে। ডাব্লিউডাব্লিউই মূলত তাদের এই কারণেই চুক্তিবদ্ধ করায় যদি এখনো স্টেবলের জন্য কোনো পারফেক্ট সূচনা দিতে পারেনি তারা। সে যাই হোক, তখন ব্লুইট ক্লাব গঠন করার পর ডিবিটি এর সাফল্য আরও বাড়তে থাকে। 2013 সালের 9 জুন কেনি ওমেগাকে সেমিফাইনালে ও অ্যালেক্স শিলিকে ফাইনালে হারিয়ে ডেভিড দ্বিতীয়বারের মতন বেস্ট অব দ্য সুপার জুনিয়র টুর্নামেন্ট জিতে যান। 2013 সালে 21 জুলাই ডেভিড প্রথমবারের মতন আইডব্লিউপিজি হেভিওয়েট চ্যাম্পিয়ন ম্যাচ খেলার সুযোগ পান, তবে ব্লুইন ক্লাবের ইন্টারফেয়ার করা সত্ত্বেও ডেভিড ওকানকে হারিয়ে পারেননি। ডাব্লিউকে তিনি কোটা আইব্লুসের পক্ষে তার আইডব্লিউজিপি জুনিয়র হেভিওয়েট চ্যাম্পিয়নটি হারান। এই ম্যাচের মাধ্যমে প্রায় 14 মাস পর ডিবিটি টাইমলাইনে টাইটেল হারান। শেষ ম্যাচ খেলেন ম্যাচের ইনভার্সন অ্যাটাক 2014 পিপিডিতে। ডিবিটি তার শেষ ম্যাচ খেলেন ব্লুইট ক্লাবের ইন্টারফেয়ারের কারণে তিনি ট্যাঙ্গোর বিপক্ষে ম্যাচটি হেরে যান। ম্যাচ শেষে ব্লুইট ক্লাবের চেম্বার তাকে আক্রমণ করেন। এর মধ্যে এনজিপিটিকে আলবিদা জানান ডিবিটি। 2014 সালে 28 জুলাই ডিবিটি ফিন ব্লক পৌরনীতির কাহিনীতে ফ্রেইন ছিলেন একজন আইরিশ যোদ্ধা এবং পৌরাণিক কাহিনী ও সুপারন্যাচারাল শক্তি সম্পন্ন মানুষের বোঝানো হয়। এই সব দুটির নামের সংমিশ্রণে তৈরি হয়েছে ফ্রেন ব্লর। এখানে এনএক্সটি সম্পর্কে একটু বলে রাখা ভালো। এনএক্সটি এর আগের নাম ছিল এফসিডব্লিউ ফ্লোরেল্ড চ্যাম্পিয়ন ওয়ারস্টেলেন, যা ডাব্লিউডাব্লিউই এর একটি ডেভেলপমেন্ট শাখা, যেখানে মূলত রক বা বিগ রেড রেসলারদের ট্রেইন করা